Chapter 3983. However, half of this money was spent on painting, and the other half was spent on socializing and dressing himself up. For several years, Tanggua had been sending them money every month. They had already developed a habit of spending all their money every month, counting the days until today. After all, for so many years, Tanggua had never stopped coming. Every time she came, she would definitely give them money. How could Tang Yuxing have expected that Tanggua would not give them money just like that? They were caught off guard and were not prepared for it at all. Tang Yushu was speechless, and the panic in his heart gradually calmed down. Although losing a large sum of money was a blow to him, it was still a huge loss. But now, he had published several articles and was a little famous. Now, every month, there would be an article that would be picked up by the newspaper. In addition to the living expenses that Wu Feng gave him, there should be no problem. Therefore, Tang Yushu quickly felt relieved and patted Tang Yuxing on the shoulder. If she doesn't want to give it to me, so be it. I didn't want her money a long time ago. I feel uncomfortable with her money. But now, if she doesn't come in the future, it will be less of a joke. Tang Yuxing wanted to say something, but he couldn't. If he said that without Tanggua's money, how would he buy the paints and materials for his paintings? These things were expensive no matter what era it was in. The average family couldn't afford it. Seeing Tang Yushu's relieved expression, as if he had thrown away a burden, Tang Yuxing didn't dare to say that it was because of the money. They couldn't be people who were corrupted by money. That would be a joke. Tang Yuxing felt that it was better to go back and get some money from his mother. In a few days, he had an appointment with his classmates to go outside to sketch. It was almost time to buy the paints and paper. Tang Yushu also decided that if he wanted to write a few more articles and earn some royalties, he could still manage. In his heart, he despised Tanggua even more for not giving him the money. At this moment, Tang Si was still at the school gate, looking in the direction that Tanggua had left. But there were only pedestrians there, and Tanggua was nowhere to be seen. A gust of cold wind woke Tang Si up. She was so angry that her face turned red when she remembered what Tanggua had said. She stomped her feet and muttered angrily. Who cares about your dirty money? If you don't want to give it to me, then don't give it to me. Do you think I care? Tang Si didn't have much money left. If she spent it sparingly, she could probably spend it for 3 to 5 days. The siblings were all the same, counting the days and spending money. The original owner's punctuality every month made them develop this habit. This gave Tanggua an advantage. The sudden attack caught them off guard and they almost went berserk. Tanggua still didn't go home. Today was her free time. Although she wouldn't be so busy in the future, she still felt that today was a day off. Other than her 3 younger siblings, she also had a very good older brother. She went to the best restaurant and bought a lot of food that Tang Yuhui liked to eat according to his taste. She took the food box and took a rickshaw to the dock where Tang Yuhui worked. When she arrived at the dock, Tang Yuhui was still busy. After the man helped the boss unload all the goods, Tang Yuhui heard that Tanggua came to see him. He hurriedly wiped his sweat and washed his hands. Every month at this time, the original owner would also come, so Tang Yuhui didn't suspect anything. Big sister, the sun is shining. It's so hot and dirty here. Why are you here again? Chapter 3984. Tang Yuhui said. Seeing that Tanggua had come alone, he disagreed even more. Why don't you let someone follow you? What if something happens? His eldest sister was getting more and more beautiful, and so many people knew her. What if someone had evil intentions? In fact, Tang Yuhui was thinking too much. Xianles was very powerful, and the boss was very successful and didn't make enemies. Those who made a living here would give some face and wouldn't dare to touch the people of Xianles. Big brother, let's eat first. You must be tired after working all morning. Tang Gui didn't care if the place was dirty or not. She found a place to eat, put out the food in the box, and let Tang Yuhui sit down to eat. Tang Yuhui was speechless when he saw this. He was touched, but also a little powerless. He took the food and ate, not saying anything for a while. If he didn't eat, he would be letting down his eldest sister's good intentions. The main thing was that he was afraid that if he didn't accept the way his family treated his eldest sister would think too much and think that her eldest brother also despised her. It would make her feel uncomfortable. These things were very delicious. If he could, he would rather not eat them. He felt his heart ache after taking a bite. This was all earned by his eldest sister's hard work in singing, giving up her face, and being pointed at by others. When she came to Xianles, she was only 15 years old. She had to bear so much alone because her eldest brother was useless. He only had a body of strength and couldn't help much. Suddenly, Tang Yuhui thought of something, and his brows relaxed slightly. Big brother, I've been to school. Tang Guo felt that she still had to tell Tang Yuhui what she had done today. It's been 5 years. Unknowingly, there are books and Cici. They've all grown up. Yes, 5 years. His eldest sister had suffered like this for 5 years. Tang Yuhui felt uncomfortable. He had to work hard every day, and when he went home, he fell asleep. His eldest sister had little contact with his family, and he rarely encountered their conflict. In addition, if they said anything bad about their eldest sister, he would scold them. These little brats had learned to be smart. They never talked about their eldest sister in front of him. His eldest sister also never said anything bad about the little ones in front of him. He didn't even have a chance to teach them a lesson. But there were some things that he knew very well. What made him feel the most helpless was Wu Fang's attitude. Tang Yuhui was thinking that if he had the ability to earn a lot of money, he could let his sister become a real rich young lady. She didn't have to do anything. In the future, he could even find a good marriage for her and let her live happily for the rest of her life. Unlike now, she had to shoulder the responsibility of an entire family at such a young age. Tang Yuhui felt sour in his heart. After all was said and done, it was his big brother who was useless. But Tang Yuhui was not discouraged, because he seized the opportunity. As long as he finished the work in these 2 days, he would be working beside a big boss. It was a coincidence that he met the big boss. The big boss saw that he had good skills and was honest, so he asked him to be a follower. Although this job didn't sound good, at least it was an opportunity. The big boss was a rich man. Maybe he could make a name for himself. Once she made a name for herself, her eldest sister's good days would come. Did they say something unpleasant again? Tang Yuhui remembered that Tang Guo went to the school to give money. Those little brats would probably say no with a look of disdain. He was very angry. When I go back, I'll teach them a lesson. Chapter 3985. He couldn't hit his younger sister, but his 2 younger brothers could still beat her up. It could be said that his 2 younger brothers, Tang Yushu and Tang Yuxing, grew up under his fists. If it weren't for their unpleasant words, he wouldn't have had to teach them a lesson. Unfortunately, with Wu Fang's existence, he couldn't correct them. No, big brother, I think they've grown up and have their own ideas. I also heard that Yoshu's articles can be published in the newspaper and can even get royalties. It seems that they can support themselves. In addition, Yoshing's painting is also good. I think he can also sell his paintings for a living. Tang Guo's face was gratified. I've always given them money because I was afraid that they would mistreat themselves. I didn't expect to burden them. Now that they've grown up, I don't have to give them money and cause them trouble. As for Cece, the two of them should be able to take good care of her as her older brothers. Tang Yuhui blinked and looked up at Tang Gua. She was clearly smiling and looking gratified, but he saw a deep sadness in the depths of her eyes. The first thing that came to Tang Yuhui's mind was none other than the fact that his eldest sister was really hurt. His eldest sister used to give money to her younger brothers and sisters because they hadn't grown up yet. She was afraid that they would be poor and bullied. Therefore, even if she endured their disdain, she still had to give them the money. Now that they had grown up, she could finally leave quietly and hide to heal her injuries. Tang Yuhui felt very uncomfortable and lost his appetite. But these dishes were all bought by his eldest sister, so he still finished them. They should learn to grow up. I heard that they spend money without thinking. It's good that you don't give it to them, Tang Yuhui said. In fact, he always felt that Tang Gua didn't need to give money to the three little ones. Big brother, there's also Mom. She doesn't recognize me as her daughter. I won't go back in the future. Tang Yuhui was taken aback. Seeing Tang Gua's serious expression and her hurt eyes, he didn't know what to say for a moment. Even if I give up everything in Xianlisi, it won't change anything if I go back, right, big brother? Tang Yuhui smiled bitterly. Big brother is useless. Big brother is very useful. If it wasn't for big brother coming to the docks to work when I was young, I wouldn't have been able to wear a floral dress. Tang Yuhui did not persuade Tang Gua to go back to the family Tang. That place would only burden his eldest sister. In the beginning, when the family was in trouble, he didn't say anything when his eldest sister used the money she earned to support the family. After all, he couldn't support the whole family on his own. He couldn't afford to send his younger siblings to school. Later on, the family's conditions improved, and the family's attitude towards his eldest sister was bad. He had tried many times to persuade his eldest sister not to take money from the family in the future. But every time the words were about to come out of her mouth, she was stopped by her eldest sister. Now that his eldest sister was disappointed in this family, Tang Yuhui was not sad in his heart, but he was sad for his eldest sister. At the same time, he was also a little happy that his eldest sister would no longer be burdened by these people who despised her. Therefore, Tang Yuhui didn't say anything. He just asked Tang Gua to take good care of herself and didn't mention anything about being a family. People had to grow up. They couldn't live under the wings of others forever. He was clearer than his eldest sister about the capabilities of those few children in the family. They were useless, but their ability to spend money was not small. Now that they didn't have his eldest sister's support, he wanted to see how they could still strut around. They hadn't suffered since they were young. Now that they started to suffer a little, it could also be considered as teaching them a lesson to grow up and see if they could correct it. Chapter 3986. After dinner, Tang Yuhui was worried about letting Tang Guo go back alone, so he insisted on sending her to her place. He only left when he saw her go in. Tang Gua turned around to look at Tang Yuhui. She didn't expect him to come back. His tone was somewhat happy as he said, "That's right, big sister, I won't be working at the docks in a few days." Tang Gua knew about this, so she continued to listen to Tang Yuhui. "The day after tomorrow, I'll be helping a big boss. Don't worry, the big boss does proper business. He's a pretty good person, and the salary he gives is many times higher than at the docks. Big sister, just wait. When big brother makes a name for himself, he'll come to Xianles to pick you up." Okay. Tang Yuhui's heart relaxed, and he left with a smile on his face. He was clearly wearing dirty clothes, but when he walked on the clean street with his smile, he didn't seem out of place at all. Tang Guo felt that if Tang Yuhui hadn't died in the original plot, he might have been able to do something with that big boss. Picking up the original owner from Xianles wouldn't have been a dream. The audience didn't mention which big boss Tang Yuhui was working with. However, Tang Gua knew when Tang Yuhui had gotten into trouble. A few months later, on a luxurious ship that seemed to be full of important people. At the time, the ship had caught fire for some reason, and no one had survived. One of the people who had died was Tang Gua's target, Zhou Ji of the Zhou family. He was the current young master of the Zhou family, and the head of the Zhou family. As for the fire, she thought it was simple. It was most likely due to vicious business competition. Someone had deliberately set it up. As soon as Tang Gua entered the house, and Hua arrived. "Miss, there's a letter for you." And Hua handed the letter to Tang Gua. Tang Gua opened it and saw that it was a reply from the newspaper company. The general idea was that the article she wrote had already been accepted. They even picked a good day, which was the day after tomorrow, to publish it. There were all sorts of praises for Tang Gua in the letter, but Tang Gua ignored them with a smile. Tang Gua had used a pseudonym to submit the article. She had only left her address here. The news agency wouldn't inquire about who lived here. Currently, they didn't know that Tang Gua was the signature of Xianles. Under normal circumstances, they would publish the article, send a sample report to the writer, and send back the remuneration. The reason why she wrote a reply to Tang Gua was because her article was too good. Tang Gua thought for a while and sent out a small portion of the book she had written in her free time. She still used the pen name Mountain Man. It was a story of love and hatred in troubled times, which was in line with the aesthetics of this era. After doing all this, she felt a little tired and went back to her room to rest. On the third day, Tang Gua's article was published in the newspaper. New Tales of Troubled Times and Mountain People immediately became a hot topic of discussion among those who had read the newspaper. The group of students was having the most heated discussion. If Tang Gua had been at school, she would have seen some students arguing with others until their faces turned red because of this article. No matter what, the idea of the mountain people had created a wave among the students. Even if many people did not agree with the views of the mountain people, it was because many of the views were very new. It was even difficult for some old-fashioned people to accept. However, this group of students who had been educated with new ideas held mountain people in high esteem. A scene could be seen on campus. Many students were holding a newspaper with the article "New Tales of Troubled Times" written on it. The more they read, the more obsessed they became, as if they had seen their first love. When Tang Yuxing came to look for Tang Yushu, he saw Tang Yushu holding a newspaper and reading the article about the mountain man. "Great, it's written so well. It simply spoke in my mind. This mountain man is really a genius." Tang Yushu couldn't help but share it with Tang Yuxing. Tang Yuxing was annoyed at the moment. After a while, he said, "Yushu, do you have any money? Can you lend me some?" Chapter 3987. Money. Tang Yushu was stunned for a moment. They had never worried about money since they went to school. Naturally, there was no such thing as borrowing money between the siblings. Because the money Tang Gua gave them was enough for them to spend, so they never worried about money. Tang Yuxing suddenly asked to borrow money, and Tang Yushu didn't react. Because he recently received a sum of money from the author, he had some money, but not much, just enough for him to spend. At this time, he also remembered that Tang Gua no longer gave them money. "Have you spent all your money?" Tang Yushu didn't lend money to Tang Yuxing directly. He guessed that Tang Yuxing wanted to borrow money to buy paints, which were expensive, and he didn't have enough money. Tang Yuxing nodded a little embarrassedly. "Paints and drawing paper are almost used up. I have to buy some. I have an appointment with my classmates to go out to sketch in 2 days. These things are necessary." Lend me some for emergencies, and I'll pay you back when I have money. Pay him back. How could he pay him back? Tang Yuxing was a big spender. If he went back and asked his mother for money, it would probably be enough for him to spend. He was afraid that he couldn't pay him back. The main thing was that he didn't have much. He felt a little embarrassed to ask his mother for money. Anyway, he was a little talented and planned to make some money with his articles. Now that he could make money, why should he spend a singer's money? It was not easy for him to straighten his back. He didn't want to be as humble as before and be laughed at by others. Therefore, the money couldn't be borrowed. This time, when he saw the article of the mountain man, he got a lot of inspiration and felt that he could write more articles. At that time, he could make money with his own talent, clean and upright, and no one would laugh at him anymore. I have no money. Tang Yushu said, I just have enough for my daily expenses. If I give it to you, I won't have enough for my daily expenses. Tang Yuxing's face was a little ugly, and he felt a little uncomfortable. Didn't Tang Yushu show off in front of him a few days ago that he had received the royalties for the previous article? He also showed him the newspaper, pointed to an article on it, and said that it was written by him. But Tang Yuxing didn't say it out loud. He suddenly remembered that Tang Yushu was also a big spender. He didn't count on his daily life, so he probably had no money on him. Alright then, I'll go back and ask Mom for some. Tang Gua didn't tell Wu Feng that she was subsidizing her younger brothers and sisters. Naturally, they wouldn't tell Wu Feng how much money Tang Gua had given them. They just kept it to themselves. She didn't know if they felt that Tang Gua's money was shady or if they felt that if they told her about it, Wu Feng would definitely ask them to hand over a portion of the money and say that she would save it for them. Tang Yuxing returned home that day. At the same time, Tang Si also returned home. At this time, they found that Wu Feng didn't look well. Wu Feng told them what Tang Gua had said when she came back. It's good that that disgraceful thing doesn't come back. In the future, our family Tang won't have a daughter like her. Wu Feng scolded, our Tang family is upright, clean and clean. We really can't tolerate that filthy thing. You guys are not allowed to interact with her in the future. You are all scholars. Don't learn bad things from her. No matter what you do, you have to be clean. If anyone dares to learn bad things, I'll break his legs. Wu Feng scolded Tang Gua for a long time, and all kinds of unpleasant words came out. Even she herself didn't realize that her cursing words actually contained a lot of embarrassment and anger. Chapter 3988. However, she couldn't admit that she was angry because Tang Gua didn't give her money. Now that she had scolded Tang Gua in front of her children and warned them not to learn from Tang Gua, she finally felt happy. She looked at the few good sons and daughters in front of her. They were all scholars that she had supported, and all of them were good-looking. She felt much better. At this moment, Tang Yuxing said, Mom, I'm going to sketch with my classmates in a few days. I'm out of paint. Then I'll give you some money. No matter what, you must tell me if you need something for your studies. Over the years, Wu Feng had saved a lot of the money that Tang Gua gave her. The main thing was that not only did Tang Gua give her family, but she also paid for her younger siblings' school fees and daily expenses. In addition, every time Tang Chuanxiang had a gambling debt, Tang Gua would take the initiative to help him settle it. Currently, Tang Chuanxiang wasn't home. He was probably still gambling outside. Anyway, when it was time for Tang Gua to give him his salary, she would take the initiative to ask someone to find Tang Chuanxiang and give him the money. Those casino owners saw Tang Chuanxiang as if he was the child of wealth. They weren't afraid that he wouldn't pay them back. Mom, I have some activities with my classmates too. Tang Si hadn't asked Wu Feng for money for a long time. Basically, Wu Feng would give them some money at the end of every month. It was a little difficult for her to say such things. Her face was a little red. However, Wu Feng didn't notice this. She thought that there might really be some activities at school. Based on the previous expenses, she added a little more and gave it to the two of them. When the two of them saw the money in their hands, they were a little dumbfounded. Although it was the same amount every month, and it was a little more this time, compared to the money that Tang Guo gave them every month, this was really too little. Not to mention a month, even 10 days was enough to choke them. Tang Si and Tang Yuxing were prideful people. They felt that this matter was very degrading, so they took the money silently and didn't say much. However, in their hearts, they really didn't feel good. Tang Guo didn't know what the two of them were going through. The Yamanashi's new tales of troubled times was still being discussed in full swing. At the same time, the news agency received an opening submission from Tang Guo. Originally, they were all wondering if they should contact this mountain man again to see if he was willing to write more articles and submit them to their newspaper. They didn't expect that when they were still thinking about how to communicate with her, she would actually submit an article. After reading the first few thousand words, the managing editor of the news agency was overjoyed. At this moment, he already had the urge to meet and talk to this mountain man. Now that the mountain man's reputation was flourishing, in his opinion, this article would make this name popular again. When the time came, everyone would pay attention to their newspapers. As long as there were articles from the mountain people, the newspapers would definitely sell well. When Tang Guo received the letter from the news agency, she did not accept the meeting with the managing editor. She only replied with a letter saying that she would continue to work with the news agency. This story would be serialized on their side in the future. If possible, they could sign a contract. After receiving the letter, the editor-in-chief of the news agency was of course willing. In less than 3 days, the contract was signed. Other than attending classes, performing, writing articles, and family tang, Wu Feng wouldn't come looking for her. However, the other person would probably find a way to look for her and ask her for money. After all, she hadn't given Tang Chuanxiang any money this month. It was impossible to give money to Tang Chuanxiang. Chapter 3989. Then what could she do so that she could openly refuse to give Tang Chuanxiang money? At this time, she inadvertently received news that the city scholars were going to hold a literary tea party. "Uncle An, when is the literary tea party?" And Hua was silent for a moment. "Miss is going to participate in the literary tea party." He thought that Tang Guo was finally going to show off her talent. Tang Guo did not hide the fact that she was writing from Anhua. Nowadays, things like sending out manuscripts were all handled by Anhua. "Yes, I plan to go and take a look. I've always been in Xianles, so I want to see other places." Tang Guo smiled. "However, I don't plan on showing off anything. I'm just going to see what the literary tea party is like." When Anhua heard this, he understood what was going on. Miss probably liked those places a lot, so she wanted to go and take a look. However, Miss did not like to be in the limelight. She just wanted to see it. He felt that this was fine. When Miss was no longer in Xianles, she would be able to truly show off her talent. It would be even better. "I'll go ask around." Not long after, Anhua told Tang Guo the time of the literary tea party and also got a ticket for Tang Guo. After all, a literary tea party needed a venue to prevent random people from sneaking in. The venue of the literary tea party was not as dazzling as the one in Xianles. Instead, it was simple and elegant. Tang Guo was dressed more plainly today, but she was covered in glitter. The moment she arrived, countless people's gazes fell on her. Many people recognized her appearance. After all, her photo had been published in the newspapers, so there was almost no one who did not recognize her. Especially every time she performed, her photo would be printed on the tickets. Many people even specially kept the tickets that they had used before. If it were any other singing event, Tanggua's appearance might be very popular. Many people would be eager for her to come. However, this was a literary tea party. Her appearance gave people a very subtle feeling. Most of the people here were students. Most of them were between 15 and 20 years old. There were fewer people of other ages. Most of these young students did not like women like Tanggua who sang for money. In their eyes, she was selling her looks. Even if she didn't sell herself, it was still a very embarrassing thing. Family Tang brothers and sisters were all here. They were originally chatting and laughing in the corner, but the scene suddenly quieted down. They looked up and saw Tanggua walking in slowly with a group of people. They were not happy when they saw how radiant she was. Instead, their expressions changed. They wanted to stand up immediately and yell at Tanggua to get out. This was a literary tea party. What was she doing here? Tanggua took in everyone's expressions. She nodded and smiled at them, then found an empty seat and sat down. She seemed to be saying, "Do as you please." She just wanted to come and take a look. If I'm not mistaken, this should be Miss Tang from Xianle, right? At this moment, a young man dressed simply walked up to Tanggua. "Miss Tang, this is the literature tea party." "I know. Miss Tang, we didn't invite you to sing." The young man continued, not giving Tanggua any face. In his opinion, Tanggua's presence in this place was an insult to their tea party. "If Miss Tang doesn't have anything else to say, you should leave. We don't need you to sing here. Thank you for your kindness. The friends here are all here to discuss poems and essays." Chapter 3990. He almost said that this wasn't a place for people like her. Tanggua maintained her smile. "I've always envied cultured people. I heard that there was a literary tea party here, so I came to take a look. You guys can talk, I'll listen." The young man frowned, and his tone was no longer as polite as before. "Miss Tang, have you gone to school?" "I started working very early, so I didn't have the chance to go to school." "System, did you hear that? She didn't have the chance to go to school." The word "school" had to be emphasized. It meant that she didn't go to school, not that she was uncultured. "Miss Tang, if you haven't gone to school, then can you read?" The young man's words were full of contempt, but Tanggua didn't show any signs of anger. What was there to be angry about? How arrogant these scholars were today would be how swollen their faces would be in the future. "Of course I can read. How can we, the people of Xianle, not be illiterate? If we can't read, how can we recognize the lyrics?" Tanggua said matter-of-factly. The young man couldn't help but laugh, and the surrounding crowd also laughed. He continued, "Then, Miss Tang, have you studied writing? Can you understand the poems and essays we're discussing? From ancient times to the present, there were countless excellent essays that could not be compared to those simple and easy to understand and vulgar lyrics. If you don't put in some effort, you won't be able to understand the meaning. Miss Tang, I'm afraid that you won't be able to follow the essays, poems, and couplets that we'll be writing here. I don't think this place is suitable for you." Tanggua shook her head. "I'm just here to take a look. I don't want to do anything. I never knew what a gathering of scholars was like, so I came here today to broaden my horizons. Is there a rule here that other people can't enter?" Everyone fell silent. There wasn't such a rule. As long as they had a ticket, they could enter. Tang Yuxing, Tang Yushu, and Tang Si, who were hiding in the corner, didn't say anything. If they went over to talk to Tanggua now, wouldn't they be drawing attention to themselves? They were extremely dissatisfied with Tanggua. She didn't even look at where she was. Was this a place she could come? He wanted her to go back to where she belonged, but he was afraid of being laughed at by others. They didn't want to stand out, but a busybody shouted loudly, "I heard that Miss Tang is the daughter of Best Actress Tang and the elder sister of Tang and Yushu. Why didn't you tell us in advance that your elder sister is coming to the literary tea party?" Of course, the person who spoke didn't like Tang Yuxing and Li Qie. Usually, because they had the pocket money given by Tang Guo, they used everything well. They were not short of money and were generous, so they were very popular. Now that Tang Guo had appeared on this occasion, they certainly would not miss this opportunity to attack the two of them. If she had known that Tang Guo would be here today, she wouldn't have come. Wasn't it better to go shopping with her classmates? She glared at Tang Guo angrily. Suddenly, she stood up and walked in front of Tang Guo. "You'd better go back. Isn't it because I didn't listen to you and annoyed you? Did you come here to stir up trouble? Do you have to make us feel uncomfortable?" Tang Guo was so angry that she laughed. How could she provoke Tang Si like this? Tang Yushu and Tang Yuxing didn't say anything. They felt that it wasn't good to speak at this time. But the people around them were still asking them questions, so they only responded in whispers. "She's always like this. She thinks that she has money and we have to listen to her," Tang Yushu said. Chapter 3991. My family has told her many times not to go to that event, but she insisted on going. She just had a falling out with my mother. My mother is not satisfied with her and forbade her from attending family dinner in the future. I guess she's here to make us uncomfortable. Really? Tang Yushu still wanted to nod and say something, but he didn't expect that Tang Guo had already walked in front of him. "It seems that I really shouldn't have come today. Even her own brother doesn't want to recognize me as his sister. I also want to recognize you," Tang Yushu said indifferently, "but what you did was really too embarrassing for our family. How can Mom not be angry? If you didn't go to those events, would Mom not let you go home? Do you think that I'm ashamed to come to this place today?" Tang Guo's eyes swept over Tang Yuxing and the other two. Seeing that they were silent, the surrounding students were also very silent. Tang Yuxing, Tang Yushu, and Tang Si are all serious scholars. "But I don't understand why you would go to a place like Xianles when they're all studying in school," said a few of the youngsters. Tang Yuxing, Tang Yushu, and Tang Si are all serious scholars. "If such a thing happened to me, I wouldn't be able to stand it. Yes, this is a literary tea party, a place where scholars gather. You suddenly came here, and you are also related to them by blood. Didn't you come here to make them lose face and lose face? I really don't know if you, as their sister, deliberately came here to make trouble for them." Many people didn't know the background of Xianlisi, especially this group of students. They only liked literature, new things, and looked down on the singers of Xianlisi. Besides, for them, scolding a degenerate singer of Xianlisi was not only not shameful, but also a kind of heroic deed. In their hearts, if a self-degrading singer like Tang Guo was awakened by their scolding, it would be a merit. Tang Guo laughed in her heart, but she didn't show it. She looked indifferent and didn't pay attention to those young people. Instead, her eyes fell on Tang Yuxing and Tang Yushu. This was the way of the world. Many people praised her, but also looked down on her. Among this group of scholars, how many people once wanted to hear her sing? Later, when they found that they didn't even have a chance to get close to her, they became angry out of shame and thought that she was a vulgar person who valued money above all. She wasn't angry, not at all. This was her purpose for coming here today. As long as Tang Yushu, Tang Yuxing, and Tang Si didn't speak up for her and wanted to distance themselves from her, it was fine. "I'm actually very envious of scholars," Tang Guo said. She saw the looks of disgust on everyone's faces. Clearly, they felt that her love was an insult to them. She continued speaking, I didn't think that my appearance would cause you trouble. When Tang Guo said this, she looked at Tang Si and the other two. The three of them met her eyes. They didn't know why, but they felt a little flustered. As for why they were flustered, they couldn't figure it out. Tang Guo sighed. If I wasn't your sister, no one would laugh at you, and I wouldn't hinder your future. System, he seemed to have understood something. Holy shit, this move of the host was too ruthless. She didn't leave them any way out. You guys continue. I'll be leaving first. Sorry for disturbing your tea party. Tang Guo said to the trio. From today onwards, this kind of trouble will no longer accompany you. From now on, you will have a bright future. I will no longer be a burden to you. After that, without waiting for everyone to react, Tang Guo left the literary tea party. After getting on the rickshaw, her red lips curled slightly. She said to the driver, go to the newspaper office. System, host, why are you going to the newspaper office? Tang Guo slowly stroked the messy hair beside her ear and said softly, publish a notice to sever our relationship. I don't want to be a burden to my family. System. Awesome. Chapter 3992. Miss Tang, are you sure you only want to publish this sentence? Who didn't know Miss Tang from Xianles? When Tang Guo approached the news agency, someone recognized her. The managing editor personally came out to greet her. After all, she was the king of topics. Any news that had even the slightest bit to do with her would definitely cause a sensation. But the managing editor still didn't understand what was so important that she had to come personally. When he asked about Tang Guo's intentions, she actually wanted to sever ties with her family in the newspaper. This shocked him, although he was also very excited. He was sure that when the newspaper was printed tomorrow, it would definitely cause a sensation in the entire Haiqing. But what he didn't understand was that the content of Tang Guo's newspaper was very simple. There was only one sentence: today, Tang Guo would sever ties with her family. One had to know that the current Tang Guo was the brand of Xianles. There were countless people who liked her, but there were also many who looked down on her. Once this news was published, it would definitely cause countless people to talk about it. Perhaps most people would just talk about it and be done with it. After all, it wasn't unheard of to publish a divorce and sever ties with someone. The difference was that Tang Guo's status was different and she was more famous. However, there were many scholars in Haiqing, and those scholars liked to criticize this and that. Speaking of which, these things didn't matter to him. Whether Tang Guo was good or not, whether she was criticized or not, it didn't matter to him. As long as the newspaper sold well, it was fine. However, he actually liked to listen to Tang Guo's songs and could be considered her fan. The tickets to her performances were very expensive, so he couldn't go every time. But if he had the time, he would definitely go. So, he didn't want her to be criticized when the time came. He thought that Tang Guo didn't know about these things, so he asked. Unexpectedly, Tang Guo's attitude was still the same as before. I don't want to say anything else. Just publish it like this. Miss Tang, if you only publish this sentence, it might cause you a lot of trouble tomorrow, the managing editor said with some concern. The managing editor said with some concern, you know that people outside like to talk about right and wrong. Most of them are bad things. Tang Guo couldn't help but smile. Isn't the newspaper selling even better? The editor-in-chief shook his head. Although I also like that the newspaper is selling well, I don't want Miss Tang to be criticized because of this. I believe that your decision to sever ties with your family was definitely not a spur-of-the-moment decision. There must be some unknown secret behind it. For your own good, I suggest that you publish all the reasons, regardless of whether they are good or bad, so that you don't have to be afraid of people talking about it. If you only post one sentence like this, you don't know what rumors will spread. Thank you for your kind intentions, Director Sue, but I've decided to only publish this sentence. I don't want to talk about other things, and I don't want to talk about those things. Tang Guo's stubborn look made Su Chongxing feel that there must be some secret behind it. He had seen Tang Guo dazzling on stage many times, but he had never seen her like this. When he spoke, there was a hint of sadness and helplessness in his expression. At this moment, Su Chongxing had the urge to uncover the secrets behind this. He tried to persuade her again, but Tang Guo still insisted. In the end, he had no choice but to follow what she wrote. When he saw that small line of words, he was stunned for a moment. Because the words were written very beautifully. It wasn't that he hadn't seen good words before, so there weren't many words that could be praised by him. He couldn't help but admire her even more. Chapter 3993. He didn't expect her to be so good at singing and her handwriting to be so good as well. Her handwriting was so good that she wasn't a simple singer. Vaguely, Su Chongxing felt that he had seen this line of small words somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where. However, this was a line of small regular script. Women all like to write small regular script, so it wasn't anything unusual. He might have seen it somewhere else by accident. Tang Guo left the news agency in a very good mood. There was actually someone by her side the whole time. It was the bodyguard that Xianles had arranged for her. Unless there was any danger, he would only be a wooden stake. Even if she had done so many things today, that bodyguard would only keep an eye on her and wouldn't say anything to anyone. This was the right that Xianles had given her. She wasn't afraid of what would happen to her reputation when the newspaper came out tomorrow. The main force that came to listen to her songs were basically not students. Most of them were people with good family conditions. Besides, she had only severed ties with her family in the newspaper. She hadn't done anything bad. Even if there was a lot of discussion outside, it wouldn't affect anything. There was nothing wrong with it. This era wasn't the internet era of the future. Besides, she didn't intend to be criticized for long. She just wanted to let this matter ferment for a while. Then, it would naturally develop in the direction she wanted. It wouldn't take long for the entire high city to know about what happened between her and her family. By then, many people would understand that she had severed ties with her family not because she didn't want to support them. It was because her family couldn't accept her identity. Now that her younger siblings had grown up, they didn't need her anymore. It was because she felt that her existence would hinder her younger siblings' future and affect their reputation. Since they had grown up and didn't need her anymore, it was time for her to quit. If these things were exposed by others, it would be more convincing than if she said it herself. It would attract more sympathy from the people of High City. Don't think that the group of students now looked down on her. They felt that she had abandoned herself and implicated the 3 children in her family. That was because they didn't know that she was the one who had supported this family all these years, paid for the 3 children's tuition fees, and gave them pocket money. Once they found out, the 3 children's situation in school would be very delicate. Tang Guo went home happily and continued to write. She didn't intend to thank an article like News Stories in Troubled Times for the time being. If you write too many of these articles, they won't be worth reading anymore. She might as well write some interesting and touching stories about love and hate. Currently, she was still writing the one she had submitted to the newspaper. It was called Beauties in Troubled Times. A few days ago, it had already been published in the newspaper, and the response was very good. After all, with the pen name, The Man of the Mountains, it had already attracted a lot of attention. This was especially so for the group of students at the school. When they realized that the people in the mountains had actually written about it, they happily went to buy the newspaper. After reading it, they felt that it was not enough. The topic of the literary tea party that they had stopped today was the discussion of the people in the mountains. In addition, they were looking forward to meeting the mountain people. It was a literary tea party. What if the people from the mountains also came? However, they didn't see anyone from the mountain. Instead, they saw Tangua. Tangua scolded her and sent her away. When Tangua's disguise was exposed one day and they found out that she was from the mountains, their faces would definitely be swollen. Chapter 3994. Tangua decided that in addition to writing, she would also write some articles about this era from time to time to make the pen name, the Mountain Man, famous. Not only did she want to cause a sensation in Haicheng, but she also wanted to cause a sensation in other places. In the future, when people from other places heard the Mountain Man, they would think that this person was a great writer. That would be a lot more. Tang thought for a while. Not only did she have to write articles, but she also had to write some poems. To be a great writer, a few articles were not enough. Some sad and magnificent poems would increase people's impression. However, poems could not be written casually. She had to find an opportunity. She might as well write poems when something sad and indignant happened in some place and caused countless people to feel sad and helpless. That would leave a deeper impression. During this period, she could not reveal her identity. As for when she would reveal her identity, that would have to wait until everyone knew about the Mountain Man and treated her as a great writer who worshipped her. As Tangua thought about it, she could not help but laugh. She really wanted to see their faces in the future. It would be so swollen. System, host, don't laugh so slyly. I'm a little scared. Little Tongzi, don't pretend. You're scared. Great host, you've been causing a lot of trouble recently. Haven't you thought of anything else? Tangguo was puzzled. What am I thinking of? The system made an "oh" sound, feeling a little sorry for someone. Your cutie has transmigrated to this world for more than a month. Haven't you paid attention to where your cutie has gone? Maybe he's still waiting for you to save him. If fate allows, we'll naturally meet. If he doesn't show up, I'll have to look for him all over the world and publish it in the newspaper, right? If he doesn't show up, then forget it. I still have a lot of things to do in this world. I don't have time for love for the time being. System, heartless woman. A certain someone was about to cry. After Tangguo left, the literary tea party became more lively. Just as Tangguo had guessed, everyone had a newspaper. The pages they turned to were all about the Mountain Man's articles. Currently, she had a cautionary article and a part of it that had been published for 2 issues. They had bought them all. Tangguo's appearance previously seemed to be just an interlude. After a moment of awkwardness, they started to talk among themselves. Tang Yushu, do you also like the man in the mountains? Hearing this question, Tang Yushu immediately threw the awkwardness to the back of his mind and quickly nodded. Yes, the man in the mountains is written very well. I was a little surprised when I heard that the mountain dwellers had published it, so I didn't have much hope. After reading the first 2 episodes, he was already engrossed in the story. New Stories in Troubled Times was well written, but I felt that what was even more interesting and captivating was this article called Beauties in Troubled Times. In just 2 issues, I could already feel the thoughts that the people in the mountains wanted to express. He integrated his own thoughts and opinions into the story. The words are beautiful, and the reading is lively and interesting. As expected of someone from the mountains. It turns out that so many people like people from the mountains. I thought that they would come to the literary tea party. The person who spoke shook his head and looked at everyone in the tea party. Everyone here is a familiar face. Everyone knows each other. I don't think the people from the mountains are here. From the pen name The Mountain Man, you can tell that he's a person who doesn't care about fame and fortune. Of course, he wouldn't participate in such a tea party. I also hope to see the true appearance of the people in the mountains, but now I can only regret it. Chapter 3995. I don't have many extravagant requests. I just hope that the Mountain Man can write a few more articles. This article must be finished. I'm still waiting to see the ending. Everyone at the literary tea party seemed to have forgotten the fact that the famous singer had come to the tea party. After a day, they left reluctantly, holding the newspaper that was about to be crushed in their hands. Who asked the Mountain Man to have so few works? There were only these few issues of the newspaper. The next day, Tangwa did not perform. She had 3 teachers' classes today, so she had to stay at home for the whole day. A few days ago, her eldest brother, Tang Yuhui, had already gone to work for the big boss. The next day, he went out with the big boss to discuss business. This was also why Tangwa chose to sever their relationship at this time. If Tang Yuhui was here, he would definitely go to the house to make a scene. When that time came, the trouble would be more troublesome. Now that her eldest brother would not be back for a while, she had to settle this matter as soon as possible. When he came back, he would not be able to change this matter. When the matter of severing their relationship in the newspaper fermented to a certain extent, she would clarify it indirectly. At that time, the family would definitely hate her even more. It would be useless even if Tang Yuhui wanted to salvage it. Moreover, Tang Yuhui would be disappointed in this family. Without her support, the bad habits of the family would be exposed one by one. Although this method would hurt her eldest brother, it was better than being sucked dry by them. As long as the family went overboard, she would appear to be at a disadvantage, and her eldest brother would slowly stop sympathizing with them. In the morning, it was Tangwa's piano. The newspaper office would send the latest morning and evening newspapers to the villa every day. Uncle An went to the door to pick up the newspaper as usual. When he finished reading, his expression changed. He looked into the villa and did not understand why Tangwa only published such a sentence. Just this sentence alone was really unfavorable to the young lady. Hearing the piano music from upstairs, Uncle An did not want to disturb her. He remembered that the bodyguard, Hei Zi, followed Tangwa out yesterday. Uncle An found Hei Zi and asked him what happened yesterday. Hei Zi truthfully told him about how Tangwa had gone out yesterday. When he heard about everything that Tangwa had experienced at the literary tea party, Uncle An's expression turned ugly. He did not know about other things, but Tangwa gave her family so much money every month, especially her younger brothers and sisters. She had never wronged them. Miss was only curious about going to the literary tea party and wanted to take a look. He knew that Miss would definitely like that kind of occasion. He didn't expect to be humiliated like that. If he had followed her, he definitely wouldn't have let those people bully the young Mississippi. The young Miss's younger brothers and sisters did not speak up for her. This made Uncle An extremely disappointed. After hearing everything, Uncle An finally understood why Tangwa only posted one sentence. She wanted to direct all the public opinion to herself. Until now, she was still unwilling to let the Tang family be criticized. However, those people might not appreciate it. Right now, there was probably a lot of discussion about this matter outside. Uncle An sighed and did not dare to do anything. He only stood at the door and waited for Tangwa. In addition, he ordered people to go outside to inquire about the news. At this time, the outside world was just as Uncle An had expected. The news that Xian Lisi's top singer had severed ties with her family had spread like wildfire. Before, they had seen countless people divorce in the newspapers, but this was the first time they had seen a singer sever ties with her family. For a time, there were all kinds of comments. The students who went to the literary tea party before were also stunned when they saw this. Chapter 3996. They couldn't help but recall that when Tang Guo left yesterday, she said that from today onwards, she would no longer implicate the family Tang. Seeing that short sentence of severing ties, they didn't know what to say. Tang Yuxing and Tang Si didn't buy the newspaper every day, but Tang Yushu bought it every day. He mainly wanted to see if there was any news about the people in the mountains. He didn't expect that in the middle of the newspaper, there was only one sentence, but the words, Xian Lisi's top singer, were very eye-catching. After reading the content, Tang Yushu was stunned. He thought that Tang Guo wouldn't come to find them again in the future and just play around. He didn't expect that she would directly sever ties with them in the newspaper. Fortunately, she didn't seem to have said anything else, just that she had severed ties with them. However, things were different from what Tang Yushu thought. He had already heard the students who attended the literature tea party yesterday discussing some things. So what she said was true. If I didn't attend the literature tea party yesterday, I really couldn't understand this kind of inexplicable severing of ties. Speaking of which, this can be considered courage. In order not to implicate her family, she chose to sever ties with them. It doesn't seem that annoying. Maybe it was yesterday's incident that made her understand that her identity would cause trouble for her family, so she chose to sever ties with them. Then yesterday, did we go too far? Actually, she didn't do anything wrong. Don't be naive. She announced in the newspaper that she's breaking off their relationship. Maybe yesterday's incident made her angry, so she might as well break off their relationship. The one who spoke was the young man who interrogated Tang Gui yesterday. His surname is Liu and his name is Liu Yunfeng. This singer is similar to an actress. There's no friendship between them. Look, now she's severed ties with her family. If she was really affectionate and righteous, she wouldn't have gone to that kind of occasion in the first place. It's such a disgrace. Liu Yunfeng continued, in addition, I think that she wanted to use this opportunity to make a bigger fuss and make herself more famous. Everyone went to listen to her singing. Do you know how much the tickets to her performance cost? I can't even buy one ticket with 5 months of my living expenses. The more Liu Yunfeng spoke, the angrier he became. Some of them agreed with him. They felt that this singer had too much drama and severed ties with them was a decision made out of anger. Some people didn't agree with Liu Yunfeng, because they didn't think that public opinion was good for her. Everyone on the street was talking about it. Wu Feng also knew about it. After listening to someone reading the newspaper to her, she scolded loudly, well done, well done. I didn't want such a disgraceful person for a long time. Now, she'll never be able to enter my family Tang. You all heard it. That wretched girl is no longer a member of the family. Whatever scandalous things she does have nothing to do with the family. In the future, don't throw dirty water at my family Tang. Wu Feng's neighbors looked at each other and did not answer Wu Feng. They felt that Wu Feng was a fool or something. If it weren't for her eldest daughter, would her family be so good? Looking at Wu Feng's attitude, they felt that she must be too sad that the eldest daughter of the family Tang group cut off all ties with her. Moreover, the chief editor of the news agency, Su Chongxing, was not that excited when he saw the reactions outside. He put away his notebook and pen and went to dig for some information based on the address he found. He found out that Tang Guo went to the literary tea party yesterday. With his connections, he even got a list of names. The people he was going to interview today were the people selected from the literary tea party's list. After spending half a day interviewing the people selected from the list, he also interviewed some students from the 3 elementary schools of the family Tang group. Su Chongqing, who had guessed the truth from the interview, returned to the news agency with an ugly expression. Chapter 3997. Chief Editor Su, you don't look too good. Could it be that today's newspaper sales didn't meet your expectations? Su Chongqing shook his head and returned to his seat. He didn't explain what happened today. You guys go first. I still have some things to do. He looked at the densely packed words in the book and thought of the truth he guessed. He felt a chill in his heart. Tomorrow, he would go to the family Tang area for an interview. The day after tomorrow, he would go to Xianles for an interview. He heard that Miss Tang's father was a gambler. Su Chongqing looked at the news and his heart sank. Who would have thought that the top singer of Xianles had so many stories behind her? Maybe he could contact the manager of Xianles. He should know more. After all, he should be happy to help Tang Guo clear her name. Host, Su Chongqing is really asking around about you. After Tang Guo left the newspaper office, she asked the system to help keep an eye on Su Chongqing. The system itself had a vision coverage function. Unless it was in a place like the cultivation world where special methods were used, as long as it could cover the place, it would know what was going on inside. Su Chongqing was in Haiqing. It was easy for him to know what he was doing. Unless it was necessary, Tang Guo didn't ask the system to do this. This time, the era was relatively backward. Tang Guo had her own plans, so she asked the system to help keep an eye on him. That's good. It seems that Su Chongqing has fallen into the trap. System. Fallen into the trap. Was this also within the host's expectations? As a good system, it had to ask if it didn't understand. Host, you know that Su Chongqing is asking around about you. Is it because you've been living a more stable life recently? Little system, why do I feel that your IQ has regressed? You're like a naive system. Host, speak properly. You can't attack your teammates. The system thought that it was right. Although it had encountered all kinds of top-quality products in the world recently, it was really living a comfortable life. The host was getting more and more powerful. It could only hug her thighs tightly. In the original plot, after the death of the original host, Su Chongqing did the same thing. Although there was a lot of information that was difficult to find, he still wrote an article that defended the original owner of the body and criticized the family Tang. It's just that this isn't the age of the internet. 2 articles won't be able to cause much trouble. At that time, Zhou Guan had already returned to the Zhou family. He doted on Tang Si and couldn't bear to see anything that would harm the family. He found an excuse to cause trouble for Su Chongqing. Now that the Su family is in trouble, not only has Su Chongqing lost his position as chief editor, but he can't even survive in Si City anymore. While Tang Guo was talking, the system was flipping through the plot and suddenly realized, oh, I see. So it's that unlucky guy. At that time, many people attacked him, saying that Su Chongqing was the original owner's fan or admirer. That's all nonsense. They might have met each other before, but they probably don't know each other. Then, do you want to use Su Chongqing to expose your backstory? I've noticed that he's been very active these past 2 days. He's been asking around about you, and he's almost found out the truth. No. Tang Guo shook her head. If we expose it at this time, it'll be easy for people to say that it's a publicity stunt. Such a foul-mouthed scholar has a very strong imagination. Chapter 3998. The system was confused. Why couldn't it be revealed at this time? How long would the host have to memorize these strange comments? It was infuriating just listening to them. Because there were a number of scholars who were foul-mouthed and narrow-minded, many people were now saying that the performers were heartless, and their words were unpleasant to hear. If you want to attack the family Tang people, you have to kill them. Su Changxing's interview is still missing one person, Tang Guo said casually. But the system was shocked. One person was still missing. Who? It made a few rounds and finally decided on one person. Is it Tang Yuhui? The system thought for a while. Other than this person, it really couldn't think of anyone else. It couldn't be one of the children who went to interview the family Tang people. You've become smarter. The system didn't reply. It silently thought that the host was still so evil. It was thinking again. It had been a while since it came to this world and met so many people. Where was the host's big cutie? It didn't suspect anyone that it had seen so far. The main thing was that the host didn't seem to be interested in any of them. It hoped that the host's big cutie would appear soon. Otherwise, the host would become more and more perverted. Don't think blindly. Keep an eye on Su Changxing. Tang Guo wasn't sure if Su Changxing would publish the article directly or inform her first. According to her understanding of Su Changxing, he would inform her first. After all, he was her fan. If he didn't inform her, she would find him herself. In less than 2 days, Su Changxing came to find her. I found some truth and wrote this article. I wanted to publish it directly in the newspaper. But then I remembered what Miss Tang said that day, so I came to find you. Tang Guo was reading the article. She was praising Su Changxing's writing style in her heart. Through his writing style, the family Tang people in the article were annoying. However, from Su Changxing's point of view, Tang Guo was immersed in sadness. His heart couldn't help but sink. Chief Editor Su, can you not publish this article? Su Changxing had expected this result. Maybe he should be willful and publish the article directly. The other party couldn't do anything about it. But after knowing these stories, he couldn't do it. From the beginning, he only liked her songs. After learning about her story, he admired her and sympathized with her. She felt that in this era, it was really too easy for a woman to live like this. He really wanted to help her clear her name, but he had to respect her opinion first. Speaking of which, it was really laughable that he, as the chief editor, actually had to consider so many things. Perhaps it was her experience that made him unable to bear it. As long as chief editor Su doesn't publish this article, you can ask for as much as you want. Su Changxing asked, Miss Tang, I want to know why. Because it's not necessary. Tang Guo smiled faintly, but Su Changxing saw sadness in the depths of her eyes. Miss Tang, you can publish this article whenever you want. Su Changxing left with an indescribable anger. He was not angry at the Tang Guo, but at the Tang family. If she did not have a family, she should be living a good life, right? Su Changxing's arrival was merely an interlude. The news of Tang Guo severing her family ties in the newspaper was still hot. It was still being discussed by everyone, and it did not stop for several days. Even Tang Guo's teachers were a little curious. Of course, they were different from the people outside. From their interactions, they understood that Tang Guo was not a heartless person at all. Chapter 3999. Taking advantage of their free time, the teachers asked Enhua for more information. Enhua saw that Tang Guo had no intention of clarifying, but she didn't want the teachers to misunderstand, so she simply explained what had happened behind the scenes. She also said, I can see that Miss Tang didn't want to hurt her family, so she only posted one sentence. She probably made this decision because her family despises her current background. Her younger siblings have grown up and no longer need her existence. She might as well cut ties with them to avoid hindering their future. After the three teachers understood, they felt a little sad. So what if she was a singer? Wasn't it just singing in front of people to earn money? Was it really that detestable? The system reported these people's reactions to Tang Guo. This was all within her expectations. After all, she had deliberately created this situation. Anyone who had interacted with her would understand that she was two-faced. This truth would temporarily be suppressed because she didn't want her family to be affected by the entertainment storm. When the day came, the backlash would be especially strong and the family would have nowhere to hide. Outside, there should be a lot of scholars writing articles cursing me, right? Yes, Madam Host. After all, Su Chongqing's newspaper isn't the only one in Haiqing. There are several other newspapers. If Su Chongqing doesn't publish these articles cursing you, the other newspapers will. Taking advantage of this popularity, they will make a lot of money. Madam Host, how long will it take for this situation to be resolved? Recently, whenever Tang Guo went to perform at Xianles, some scholars would be filled with righteous indignation. They would point at her and scold her for being heartless. Although these things affected her reputation, it really didn't affect Xianles' business. More and more people became curious and wanted to see what this woman who had severed all ties with her was like. As long as this kind of storm was left alone, it would dissipate in a month at most. After those scholars finished cursing and she didn't respond, there was basically nothing left to do. She calculated the time. Tang Yuhui should be back in a couple of days. This was the time when the scholars were writing articles cursing her. Once Big Brother comes back, it should be resolved. While waiting for Tang Yuhui to come back, Tang Guo did nothing but perform, write articles, and learn new skills from the three teachers. During this period, Tang Chuanxiang had tried every means to find her. However, she ignored Tang Chuanxiang. Tang Chuanxiang's creditors also came, but they still didn't see Tang Guo. Because of Tang Chuanxiang's pestering, Tang Guo was affected. Xianles' bodyguards were not to be trifled with, and they taught him a lesson. Tang Chuanxiang stopped looking for trouble with Tang Guo. He remembered that all these things were caused by his family members. Who cares about the money? Why sever ties? It must be those few people in the family who spoke too harshly and angered Tang Guo. Tang Chuanxiang hated Wu Feng to death, as well as Tang Si and his other children. When he returned home, he threw a tantrum and searched everywhere for Wu Feng's hidden money. Fortunately, Wu Feng was prepared and was not found by Tang Chuanxiang. Tang Chuanxiang kept an eye on her at home every day. Wu Feng wanted to vomit to death, but she couldn't get rid of all this. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you disliking this and that, would eldest lass have severed ties with you? Look at what you've done. Tang Chuanxiang scolded angrily. Hurry up and take out the money. Wu Feng kept refusing to take it out, and Tang Chuanxiang couldn't help but make a move. Wu Feng refused to take it out no matter what. In the end, Tang Chuanxiang had no choice but to leave while cursing. Chapter 4000. After half a month, Tang Yuhui finally came back. This time, he went out with the big boss and learned a lot. He also brought back some trinkets that didn't exist in High City. He thought that his sister would like them. He didn't expect that as soon as he stepped into High City, he would hear all kinds of discussions about Tang Guo. He anxiously grabbed someone to ask and found out the whole story. The whole High City knew about it. Anyone would know what was going on. Tang Yuhui remembered the words of that man, as well as the recent rumors and slanders. There are even some young scholars who have been condemning Tang Guo. Looking at the articles condemning her, Tang Yuhui's eyes turned red. Yuhui, what's wrong? Zhou Ji admired Tang Yuhui and felt that he wasn't a simple person who only knew how to work. The first time at the dock, after Tang Yuhui helped him solve the problem, he decided to recruit this young man. Not only was Tang Yuhui smart, but he also had some skills. He could help him do a lot of things. What surprised him even more was that Tang Yuhui didn't know how to read and write. His handwriting wasn't beautiful, but it was neat. After asking, he found out that he used to study outside the school when he wasn't so busy. If it weren't for his family's poor conditions, he would definitely go to school. Because of this, Zhou Ji admired this young man even more. In the past half a month, Tang Yuhui had been by his side and didn't show any emotion no matter what happened. Now, his eyes were red and he seemed to be very angry. It attracted his attention. "If there's anything, I can arrange for someone to help you." He guessed that something had happened to Tang Yuhui's family. "Young master, I do have something to do." Zhou Ji looked at Tang Yuhui and couldn't help but ask, "What happened?" "My sister was slandered." Tang Yuhui couldn't bear such an outcome. "They must be gossiping about her again when I'm not around. The last time she came to see me, eldest sister said that her younger siblings had grown up and she didn't need her anymore." When it came to Tangua, Tang Yuhui lost all his calm. He forgot that the person in front of him was his boss and shouldn't talk about family matters. However, he just wanted to find a place to vent. "My sister must be afraid of implicating them, so she didn't say anything and just let them scold her." Zhou Ji couldn't help but glance at the newspaper in Tang Yuhui's hand. He took it and read it. He had been to Xian Lisi before, and of course, it was to discuss business. Some of his business partners, after discussing business, might invite him to listen to some singers sing. However, he wasn't interested in that kind of thing and rarely went to those occasions. However, how could he not know Tangua, Xian Lisi's brand? Previously, when he investigated Tang Yuhui's background, his subordinates only said that his background was clean and that there was nothing suspicious about it. He did not deliberately listen to Tang Yuhui's life experience. He didn't know that Tang Yuhui and Xianl's Yuhui's family members, Tang family. But after reading the newspaper, when those scholars used sonorous and forceful words to scold a singer, she felt a little displeased from the bottom of her heart. "Young master, I want to go home first. In short, no matter what, I can't let my sister fall into this kind of injustice. They despise my sister's identity as a singer, but they forget that if it weren't for my sister's sacrifice, I wouldn't have been able to sit in school today. Okay, you can go back. Come back when you're done." After Tang Yuhui left, Zhou Ji thought about it and asked someone to investigate Tangua. Tang Yuhui was his subordinate and he admired him. It was easy for him to find the truth. Chapter 4001. It didn't take long for Zhou Ji to learn the truth. He also found out that many newspapers had published articles criticizing Tangua. Only Su Changxing's article was not published. When he saw this, Zhou Ji felt that it was unusual and asked them to invite Su Changxing. According to Tangua's expectation, it would take a few days for Tang Yuhui to find Su Changxing. However, Zhou Ji's intervention had brought it forward. "I was wondering who was looking for me. I didn't expect it to be Master Zhou." The Su family was not as rich as the Zhou family, but it was not a small family either. Su Changxing was not timid in front of Zhou Ji. Zhou Ji nodded and then asked about Tangua. Su Changxing was a little confused. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Master Zhou, are you interested in Miss Tang?" "No," Zhou Ji denied. "I just want to know the truth." Su Changxing also felt that Zhou Ji was not interested in Tangua. There must be other reasons. However, since Zhou Ji asked, Su Chongqing wished he could read the article. Unfortunately, he did not bring it with him today. However, he was very familiar with his own article. After organizing his words, he told him the story behind it. I see. Zhou Ji's expression did not change much. He thanked Tang Yuhui and said, maybe I will ask you for help later. Zhou Ji felt from Tang Yuhui's attitude that Tang Guo was important to him. He felt that Su Chongqing's information would be useful to him. Actually, I also wrote an article. I wanted to publish it, but Miss Tang was afraid of implicating her family, so she took the blame herself. She even wanted to buy me out of publishing the article. Zhou Ji was a little surprised. He did not expect Miss Tang to be so loyal. However, he felt that such a person was a little silly. When he thought of the articles that criticized her, he was even more displeased. He didn't hate cultured people, but he hated those pedantic, ignorant, and very expensive people. Tang Yuhui went home. He wanted to ask Wu Feng what they had done, but he found that Wu Feng had been hit by Tang Chuanxiang again. He did not want to say anything, so he planned to ask the younger ones. Before he could ask, Wu Feng began to scold Tang Guo in front of him. Wu Feng was blaming Tang Guo for Tang Chuanxiang's beating. Tang Yuhui felt a chill in his heart when he heard those cursing words. She thought about the insults that her eldest sister had been receiving recently, and then looked at Wu Feng's scolding. Tang Si and the other two actually stood silently by the side, as if they were subconsciously agreeing with Wu Feng's words. All the bad things were brought about by Tang Guo. Tang Yuhui stood in front of the three of them. Do you think that eldest sister's existence has embarrassed you? Isn't it? Tang Si couldn't stand Tang Guo the most. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have been pointed at and gossiped about. If you don't want to go home, then don't go home. Why did you have to make everyone know about it? Now everyone knows about our family scandal. Last time at the literature tea party, she came uninvited. In the end, because no one welcomed her, she flew into a rage out of humiliation. In a fit of anger, she cut ties with us, Tang Yushu said. Tang Yushu said, actually, it's good to sever ties. At least now our Tang family is innocent and upright. What about you? What do you think? Tang Yuhui looked at Tang Yuxing. Tang Yuxing hesitated for a moment and said, Big brother, you can't blame us for this. We didn't force her to break ties with us. She chose to do so. Tang Yuhui suddenly felt that he was too naive to think that they would change. He couldn't help but turn around and punch Tang Yuxing and Tang Yushu. Tang Si was so frightened that she quickly stepped back. Tang Yuhui scolded, a bunch of heartless dogs. Anyone can say these things, but you can't, Tang Yuhui said coldly as he looked at Wu Feng, who was walking out. And you too. No one in the family has the right to say that about eldest sister. After saying that, Tang Yuhui left. He wanted to clear his eldest sister's name. No matter what happened to the family, they deserved it. Chapter 4002. Tang Yuhui first returned to the Zhou family and told Zhou Ji about his decision. He worked for Zhou Ji and would definitely need some time to clear his sister's name. He told Zhou Ji so that he wouldn't delay his work. Zhou Ji knew the truth from Su Chongqing, so he was not surprised by Tang Yuhui's actions. Instead, he felt that he had not misjudged Tang Yuhui. He was a righteous person who could distinguish right from wrong. On the other hand, he did not like Tang Si and the other two, who were spending Tang Guo's money but looked down on her. Zhou Ji asked, Yuhui, what are you going to do about this? He thought highly of Tang Yuhui. Now, wherever he went, he would bring him along. Not only was Tang Yuhui good at fighting, but he was also smart and could help him solve many problems. I want to publish it in the newspaper in the name of my sister's brother and tell everyone the truth behind this. Tang Yuhui's eyes were bright. As for what kind of comments the family would encounter after seeing their attitude, he did not care. His sister had been slandered by them for so many years. He felt terrible and forced his sister to sever their relationship in the newspaper. He felt that it was not worth it. Even if his sister severed their relationship, she was still his sister. This was a fact that could not be changed. It was also good to sever their relationship. Otherwise, they would look down on his sister and drag her down. They would say things that were worse than pigs and dogs to anger her. Zhou Ji did not have any objections to this. He thought of Su Chongqing and said, "Perhaps you can go to Su Chongqing. He will be happy to do this." From their previous conversation, Su Chongqing should be a fan of Tang Gua. Su Chongqing probably did not notice how indignant he was when he talked about family Tang people and those scholars who spouted shit. Su Chongqing. Tang Yuhui was a little confused because he did not know this person at all. Zhou Ji patiently explained again. After knowing that Su Chongqing was the editor-in-chief of a newspaper and the only newspaper in High City that had not published articles scolding his sister, Tang Yuhui's impression of him instantly improved. He thought that he should go to Su Chongqing. Tang Yuhui could not wait for a moment. He did not even have lunch and hurriedly went to find Su Chongqing. Su Chongqing's eyes lit up when he learned of Tang Yuhui's intentions. To tell you the truth, I once investigated the matter behind Miss Tang's back and even wrote an article to clear her name. However, she refused to publish it, probably because she was afraid that her family would be involved in this storm. You don't have to think about that. I'm her big brother. I can't bear to see her being talked about like that. Tang Yuhui felt that his sister was too soft-hearted and valued the people in the family too much. He really hoped that his eldest sister would be a little colder to her family so that she wouldn't get hurt. If it were any other matter, he would comply with the other party's wishes, but not this one. He had to think of a way to let the world know how much his eldest sister had suffered all these years. What nonsense about being heartless. It was all bullshit. If they liked to scold, then they could go and scold the younger ones in the family for being ingrates. They were full of benevolence, righteousness, and morality. Whatever new ideas they had read, they had all gone to the dogs' stomachs. What they were doing, he thought, was not a reform of the mind, but putting the old lady's shroud over their swine brains. Of course, Su Chongqing hoped for this outcome. When he heard that Tang Yuhui was willing to take any responsibility, he felt relieved and wrote the article boldly. Tang Yuhui watched him write from the side and frowned. From time to time, he would instruct him to add a few sentences. He did not forget to say, "Remember to be more eye-catching when the time comes. Put my name on it." Chapter 4003. You must let everyone know that it was Tang Yao's big brother who helped her clear her name. Su Chongqing quickly nodded. Don't worry, Mr. Tang. I will use the most eye-catching title. I guarantee that everyone will not be able to take their eyes off it. This is what I do. I know what they like to read. Tang Yuhui was very satisfied. This time, he even asked his boss, Zhou Ji, for an advance of a month's salary. He was prepared to use all of it to clear his sister's name. He gave the money to Su Chongqing and patted him on the shoulder. Do your job well. I heard that your newspaper company did not publish any articles that scolded my sister. Tang Yuhui admired this person. Because you did not publish these articles, your newspaper company's sales seem to be very bad recently. This is just a temporary problem. Su Chongqing shook his head. Our newspaper company guarantees quality and quantity. In addition to selling the latest divination every day, we also publish some excellent works. We still buy what we want. I don't publish those strange articles. First, I know the truth behind Miss Tang. Second, I actually like her songs. Third, I think those articles are nonsense. Everyone knows new things. If they are published in our newspaper, it will pollute the page. He really did not set up a newspaper company to publish divination. There were relatively few divination sections. I just took a look. The quality of your newspaper is really good. In the past, Tang Yuhui did not read these articles. Although he could read, he did not need to read. But now, he would slowly learn to read all the news from the outside world so that he could understand the latest news. In the afternoon, under Tang Yuhui's supervision, Su Chongqing improved the article that cleared Tang Guo's name. The name must be eye-catching. Before leaving, Tang Yuhui reminded him. Let the children who sell newspapers publicize it. Su Chongqing did not know whether to laugh or cry. He thought that the article that he had completed today did not need any more publicity. Anyone who saw it would hate the family Tang people. He was also very happy that Miss Tang had such a good big brother behind her. If it were not for Tang Yuhui, she would have been scolded for a long time. Tang Yuhui could not sleep the whole night. He kept looking forward to tomorrow's morning paper. Su Chongqing couldn't sleep either. After holding it in for so long, he finally got a big one. He was still a little excited. As usual, before going to bed, Tang Yushu and Tang Yuxing, who were beaten up by Tang Yuhui, were particularly dissatisfied with Tang Yuhui's sudden beating. I wonder where Big Brother's heart has gone to. It's been like this since we were young. Aren't we used to it? In the future, let's not mention that person in front of him. Anyway, she's no longer a member of the family. She was the one who severed ties with us. In the end, Big Brother blamed us for everything. Go to sleep. You still have class tomorrow. Tang Guo slept better. Through the messages sent to her by the system, she knew what Tang Yuhui had done in a hurry. She was a little touched. Now she was finally sure that if it hadn't been for that accident, Tang Yuhui would have been able to get up and lead the original owner to live a good life. Even if the family Tang dragged her down, as long as Tang Yuhui was there, the original owner would have a good life. At dawn, Tang Yuhui went out with the two pandas, waiting for Su Chongqing's morning paper to be printed. After more than half an hour, he woke up. Chapter 4004. Hearing Tang Yuhui leave in a hurry, he shook his head. Give me a copy of the morning paper later. Yes, young master. Extra, extra. Brother Tang Guo, the singer from Xianlisi, has cleared her name in the newspaper. Extra, extra. There's a different truth behind the singer from Xianlisi, Tang Guo. If you want to know the truth, come and buy a copy of the newspaper. Tang Yuhui sat outside the newspaper office with a copy of the newspaper and stared at it. He was very satisfied when he heard the children holding the newspaper and shouting the most exciting news of the day. He read the article several times and felt that it was about time. Holding the newspaper, he walked from one street to another and found that many people were staring at the newspaper and discussing it. Even the snack sellers were shocked by the news about Tang Guo. He was satisfied. Even so, he felt that it wasn't enough. He simply found someone to help him spread the news and let them spread the news everywhere. Therefore, the entire morning, the people of Sea City were discussing the article that couldn't be more detailed. Even those who couldn't read knew all the content of the article and didn't know what to say for a while. Tang Yushu was used to buying newspapers every day, and he stared at Su Chongqing's newspaper office. Su Chongqing was right. The quality of his newspaper was very good. especially with the living signboard of the mountain people. Every time there was an article about the mountain people, those who liked her would have a copy of the newspaper. At first, Tang Yushu didn't think much of it until he got the newspaper and saw the most eye-catching content. He was stunned. When he finished reading all the content, his face turned pale. The title was eye-catching. It was written that Tang Yuhui had cleared Tang Guo's name. He was Tang Guo's elder brother, so of course, he wouldn't lie. The content was all true. Tang Yushu couldn't refute it even if he wanted to. Before Tang Yushu could react, the classmates who met him all looked at him strangely. The bolder ones even walked over and asked Tang Yushu, is what the newspaper said true? Your life and tuition fees are all paid by your elder sister? Your elder sister went to Zion Lisi to let you go to school. Tang Yushu's face turned pale and red, as if someone had pulled off his fig leaf. He turned around and walked away, ignoring those people. Could he say no? Once he said no, that biased big brother of his would definitely come to school and confront him face to face. They were all blood-related siblings. Big brother only had eyes for her. He did not expect that for her sake, his big brother would disregard their reputation and allow someone to publish that humiliating article. He could already imagine how many people would point fingers at them in the future. Even if the students didn't say anything to his face, they would definitely talk about it behind his back. Yes, the students who saw the newspaper were all very surprised. They looked down on Tang Guo's status because they felt that she had abandoned herself. If they had known from the beginning that Tang Guo had gone to Xianles to support her younger sibling's studies and support her family, even if they looked down on her identity, they would never have written an article to scold her. They would not even give her a good face in front of her and talk about her faults. Now that she thought about it carefully, she didn't do anything wrong. Her only mistake was entering Xianles. Moreover, she had gone to Xianles for the sake of her younger siblings. On the other hand, Tang Si and the other two, who ate and spent Tang Guo's money and spent Tang Guo's tuition fees, even dared to gossip about her and despise her for being a disgrace. This really shouldn't have happened. Chapter 4005. Tang Yuxing and Tang Yushu had similar reactions. Because of this matter, they didn't dare to go out. Tang Si couldn't stand being pointed at by people around her. Now that she was out on the street, she heard many people talking about how ungrateful they were. The three of them went home in a sorry state and hid in the house, not daring to go out. Although many people didn't know them, they were very upset when they heard those words. Wu Feng didn't look good either. She also heard those words when she went out today. There was no place in Haiqing that didn't talk about this matter. Fortunately, they weren't famous people, otherwise they would have been recognized long ago. How could Big Brother do this? Tang Si's eyes were red and she was about to cry. Why didn't he think about us when he did this? How are we going to face him now? She gave us money to spend willingly. We didn't ask for it. Tang Si was only 15 years old and hadn't fully developed her values. She didn't know that she shouldn't have said such things. If others heard it, it would definitely cause criticism. Tang Yushu and Tang Yuxing understood a little. After all, they were almost 10 years old and knew a little more. They didn't say anything bad about Tang Guo. Instead, they asked Wu Feng, "Mom, is Big Brother back? What can't a family discuss? Does he have to make it known to everyone?" That's right. Big Brother has always been biased towards her. Now, for her sake, he doesn't care about our reputation. How are we going to face people in school in the future? Wu Feng also spat. That jinx. Even after severing ties, she won't let this family have peace. Mom, who are you calling a jinx? Tang Yuhui pushed the door open and came in. Seeing that they didn't reflect on themselves at all, they instead scolded Tang Guo. You guys, do you think it's embarrassing? Tang Yuhui didn't know how to scold Wu Feng, but these little ones didn't need to be polite. You heard people say that you're heartless and ungrateful. You feel bad, right? Yes, you know it's not good. Big sister was scolded for so long and had all kinds of articles written about her. Can you imagine what kind of suffering she's going through? Her family doesn't understand and a group of people is pointing fingers at her. Why didn't you think of that? She's suffering too. You said I'm biased, so I'm biased. Big sister deserves my bias. What qualifications do the few of you have for me to be biased? Can he write a few words or draw a few birds? If it weren't for eldest sister, would you have the opportunity to sit in the classroom and learn these things? What you've done before is ungrateful. Tang Si, you're 15 this year. You're always talking about how you don't care about money and how you're thinking about innovation. You've never cried before. Big sis went to Xianles to do odd jobs when she was young, and she started singing in Xianles when she was 15. If it wasn't for Big Sis, would you have such a good life? It's good enough that we can fill our stomachs. The two of you are only 3 years younger than eldest sister. Both of you are grown men. Other than writing 2 words and drawing 2 birds, what else can you do? Eldest sister has always said that we can't let you guys suffer. If I had known that you guys would become like this, I would have really sent you guys to the docks to experience what hard work is. I can already write my own articles and get paid. Tang Yushu couldn't help but retort. Tang Yusheng added, I can also sell my paintings for a living. Tang Yuhui sneered and couldn't help but tug at their clothes. Fine, you guys are capable. You've all grown up. Other than the money I give to my parents, I won't give a single cent to the family. Since the two of you can support this family, then it shouldn't be too much to help your own sister in the village. Big sis and I can support the family when we're not even 10 years old. You guys are already 17 years old, so it shouldn't be a problem to support the family. Chapter 4006. Boss. Wu Feng shouted. Do you really want to turn this family upside down for that star of death? Mom, that's what I don't understand the most. How can you take eldest sister's money while disdaining her for being a disgrace? Wu Feng's face turned a little red. Tang Yuhui didn't want to say any more. He pointed at them and said, if you guys are tough, then don't come looking for me and my sister. Let me see what you guys can do. With that, he left. He was going to find eldest sister. After all, she definitely knew about the article being published in the newspaper. He had to go and coax her so she wouldn't get angry and ignore him. He had already thought of an excuse, saying that he couldn't let the younger ones continue like this, or they would grow up crooked. They were all grown up and could support themselves. This was a trial they had to go through. After pondering over what to say, Tang Yuhui rushed to Tang Guo's villa without stopping. Tang Guo had indeed read the newspaper. Su Changxing's writing was very sharp, and every sentence could strike a person's soul and leave a deep impression. Well written. Tang Guo was hiding in her room. After all, she was a big sister who cared about her younger siblings, so she couldn't reveal her true self. She couldn't let this image crumble. If it crumbled, public opinion would be against her. In a while, she would still feel very uncomfortable about this matter. And Hua was standing at the door. After the young miss got the newspaper, she locked herself in her room. He was very worried, and the young miss even cancelled today's classes. Hearing that Tang Yuhui had come, and Hua seemed to have found her savior and quickly invited him in. When Tang Yuhui saw Tang Guo, he first apologized, then said, eldest sister, even if you blame me for this matter, I still have to do it. You've suffered so much this year, and I can't bear to see anyone slander you. Publishing a clarification in the newspaper is very necessary. Since you've cut ties with your family, then don't go back. Wait for them to bear the consequences themselves. This is what they should do. They can't grow up under the protection of a big tree. You've done enough. Don't explain to anyone, and don't publish a statement in the newspaper to speak up for them. Eldest sister, have you noticed why they enjoy your gifts without any qualms, but don't cherish them at all? Seeing that Tang Gua had noticed him, Tang Yuhui quickly said, they got it too easily. For their own good, they have to suffer this time. If this continues, their leader will be crippled. Eldest sister, we can't protect them forever. Keeping them under our wings is equivalent to breaking their wings. For the sake of their future, we can't care about them anymore. As long as they don't starve to death, let them live. Tang Gua seemed to have been tricked. Big brother, you're so considerate. I used to think that it was enough to give them a good life. However, I neglected their growth. Speaking of which, it's my fault. It's not your fault. It's also my fault. It's also our mother's fault. Now that they were not even 20 years old, they could slowly correct it. In short, eldest sister was not allowed to pity them in the future. This was the only way for them to grow up. Only when they climb up on their own can they fly high. Even if he couldn't fly, it would be fine as long as he didn't implicate eldest sister. As for the younger ones, he was thoroughly disappointed. Just as he had said, as long as they didn't starve to death, he wouldn't care. I'll listen to Big Brother. System, dear host, your acting is really good. Tang Gua, there's nothing I can do about it. Big Brother is too cooperative. Chapter 4007. After persuading Tang Gua, Tang Yuhui gave her the trinkets he bought outside. Seeing that she really didn't intend to speak up for the Tang family, he felt a little relieved. Before leaving, Tang Yuhui repeatedly emphasized that Tang Gua must not secretly help her family, otherwise it would be harming them. Mom has a lot of opinions about you. You've given her a lot of money over the years. She probably didn't spend much and saved it all. Tang Yuhui knew his mother very well. Wu Feng was a prideful person. Even if she starved to death, she wouldn't ask Tang Guo for money. As long as his eldest sister wasn't soft-hearted, this matter would be settled. Once his eldest sister was soft-hearted, she would definitely be the one to suffer. His mother would be unforgiving when the time came. Her words were like stabbing a knife into people's hearts. Now you cut off all ties with your family. Anyway, you're not allowed to interfere in this matter. Tang Yuhui was still worried about this. I'll take care of everything. If they really can't survive, I won't watch them starve to death. Okay, I'll listen to you, Big Brother, Tang Gua said very seriously. Big Brother has seen the world with the big boss. He knows more than me. Tang Yuhui was a little embarrassed. I learned a little from the boss, but there are really a lot of different things outside. If there's a chance in the future, I'll take you out to see it. The chance Tang Yuhui was talking about was, of course, when he saved enough money to redeem Tang Gua. Or, when Tang Gua's contract with Xian Lixi expired. Just as Tang Yuhui was about to leave, Tang Gua stopped him. Big Brother, about Dad, you're not allowed to interfere in this matter. At the mention of Tang Chunxiang, Tang Yuhui was full of anger. Big sister, I'm telling you, you must not interfere in Dad's matters. Have you forgotten the hard days when we were young? If it weren't for his gambling addiction, how could we have lived so hard? It can be said that this family was ruined by him. You indulged him and helped him pay off his gambling debts. Tang Yuhui had actually told the original owner a lot about this matter. He told her not to help Tang Chuanxiang. Unfortunately, the original owner was soft-hearted and was afraid that Tang Chuanxiang's matter would bring trouble to the family. He might as well fork out some money and settle the matter. Eldest sister, I know you can't let go of your family, but you shouldn't care about Dad's matters. All these years, with you around, the little ones in the family didn't know what a creditor was. Now is the time to let him experience it. Don't worry, Mom is good at hiding money. Even if she wants her life, Dad won't get the money. Tang Yuhui even had an idea in his mind, but he didn't tell Tang Gua. I'll watch over him. You don't have to worry. According to his plan, he should just let Tang Chuanxiang suffer a little. After living a good life for so long, he no longer knew his own worth. Alright, I'll listen to Big Brother. Big Brother is more confident than me. After persuading Tang Gua, Tang Yuhui was finally relieved. However, when he was leaving, he still looked back 3 times with every step he took. He repeatedly reminded her not to care about the family matters and that he would take care of everything. Tang Gua agreed seriously on the surface, but she couldn't help laughing in her heart. It was not bad to have such a big brother. After Tang Yuhui left, she locked herself in the room to read and write. Now that she didn't have any performances or classes, she just did these. The 3 teachers all said that she was talented. If she had learned these things earlier, she might have made a name for herself. Tang Gua wasn't in a hurry. She was only 20 years old and had a long life ahead of her. The system couldn't help but mutter, "Host, it's not long. Your life is shorter than others." Chapter 4008. Tang Gua snapped out of her daze. I think so. But it's about 30 years. That's enough time for me to do what I wanted to do last night. System, host, did you forget something very important? Your cutie has already fainted in the corner from crying. Tang Gua, didn't I not encounter it? Let's do something first. Tang Gua didn't say much and continued writing. She was thinking about what she should do next. There were still a few months before the accident. She had to think of a way to get on that merchant ship. As long as she was on that ship, she could save the people she wanted to save. No matter what kind of conflict there was, she couldn't let anyone she wanted to save die. The eldest son of the Zhou family and her eldest brother had died in the explosion, fire, and sinking of the ship. The second son of the Zhou family was still studying abroad. There was still some time before he returned to the country. He had died in the hands of robbers. According to the background, it was really unexpected. The plot didn't specify how the youngest daughter of the Zhou family had died. In any case, she would be there to watch over the Zhou siblings. None of them could die. The whole family had to live together. Zhou Guan wouldn't have anything to do. Even if he was brought back to the Zhou family, he wouldn't be able to change anything. Tang Yuhui returned to Zhou Ji's side in high spirits. When Zhou Ji asked about the incident, he quickly told him everything in detail. He was even beaming with joy. He was probably very satisfied with the outcome. Zhou Ji listened patiently. He also got to know the other side of his subordinate. Of course, after understanding the details, he felt that Tang Gua was indeed worthy of Tang Yuhui's efforts. Zhou Ji didn't take this matter to heart. He led Zhou Ji back to work. The world wasn't good now, but it was still an opportunity. Whether the Zhou family could rise to the next level depended on what he did next. Tang Yuhui got busy. He didn't forget about Tang Chuanxiang. He arranged for 2 people to keep an eye on him. As long as the Zhou family's lives weren't in danger, Tang Chuanxiang could do whatever he wanted. The Tang family's life was in turmoil. The first thing they were affected by was Tang Si and the other two. Their pocket money was reduced drastically. Everything they did couldn't be compared to before. In the eyes of outsiders, the three of them had become stingy. The three of them were people who cared about their reputation. Every day was very unhappy. Tang Yushu was slightly better. At least he could get some remuneration. Although he could only publish a few articles every month, he was still able to publish a few. The one who suffered the most was Tang Yuxing. Painting cost a lot of money, and every single material was money. He had asked Wu Feng for money twice this month. However, he still didn't have enough money. If he only bought paint and paper, he wouldn't have the money to do anything else. If he used the money on other things, he wouldn't be able to buy enough paints. He had already tried to sell his paintings for a living. In fact, his talent in painting was not particularly good. He could only be considered above average. In this day and age, there were still many people who knew how to draw. Ordinary people didn't even have enough to eat, so why would they buy paintings? Why would a rich family want to buy a nobody's painting? Tang Yuxing looked down on people who became tools after learning how to draw. Either he didn't sell it, or he would sell it to someone who appreciated the painting, which was the person who gave the painting its value. Chapter 4009. He had never thought of being a tool man, drawing for some occasions and decorating the house. Someone had suggested to him if he wanted to do such a thing. Although the money was not much, at least there would be some income. However, Tang Yuxing had rejected him. Tang Yuxing's words were full of faith and the soul of art. That person felt that he was asking for a snub and decided not to talk to Tang Yuxing about this anymore. That person had thought that if Tang Yuxing was really short of money, he could help him. However, not only was Tang Yuxing not grateful, he even felt that he had been insulted. When he left, that person suddenly realized that Tang Yuxing did not know what was good for him. In this era, many people were starving to death. There were countless people who could not eat. Tang Yuxing might not have seen those people who were starving to the point that their faces were yellow and their bodies were emaciated, their bones were high, and their eyeballs were protruding. The soul of art. Bullshit soul. That person must be crazy to introduce jobs to Tang Yuxing. Bah. Tang Yuxing did not know about this and continued to study his so-called art. If anyone insulted his art, he would fiercely argue with them. Unknowingly, many people felt that Tang Yuxing was unreasonable and they slowly distanced themselves from him. No one appreciated Tang Yuxing's paintings and no one wanted to buy them. Someone had asked him if he was willing to go to the house to draw some decorations, but he had to follow the owner's request. Wasn't such a request treating him as a tool? Drawing according to someone else's request had already lost the soul of art. This was an insult to art. Tang Yuxing naturally did not agree. These people were all servants of rich families. When they saw that Tang Yuxing did not know what was good for him, they turned around and found someone else. There were many people who could draw better than Tang Yuxing. They asked Tang Yuxing because he was a student of the school. At first, they had some appreciation. However, when they saw Tang Yuxing's reaction, they had long given up on the idea. Tang Yuxing missed one opportunity after another. He was not willing to lower his standards and continued to wait for people to appreciate his paintings. There was a rich family who wanted to buy a few paintings to paste on the wall as decorations. Initially, the discussion was going well. However, Tang Yuxing accidentally heard what the other party wanted to do with the paintings and refused to sell them on the spot. His paintings were to be hung up, admired, or sold to people who liked them. When he heard that his painting would eventually be plastered on the wall and used as wallpaper, he was furious. However, due to the other party's identity, he did not dare to scold him. He could only reject the deal with an ugly expression. At this moment, Tang Yuxing felt that he had talent, but no one appreciated his talent. Thinking of all the stories from the past to the present, he felt that he would definitely be able to find Bo Lu. In order to buy paints, he had to tighten his belt. He had to ask Wu Feng for pocket money twice a month to barely get by. Tang Yuxing, who was depressed, had a strange temper. Not many people were willing to get close to him, and his whole person became gloomy. As for Tang Yushu, it was still alright. After all, publishing an article in a newspaper was a very honorable thing for any scholar. The so-called remuneration was just something he got along the way. It would be more dignified to talk about it. Seeing Tang Yuxing like this, Tang Yushu tried to persuade him, "Yuxing, you can't always be like this. Why don't you find something to do first?" Actually, they were about to graduate. There was still a year left. When the time came, he couldn't keep asking his family for living expenses. He had already found a direction, and when the time came, he would go to the news agency to look for a job. Chapter 40:10. She would also write an article about how she must be living a good life. She wanted to show the person who had cut ties with them that he was still doing well even without her. Tang Yuxing did not agree and even threw a tantrum at Tang Yushu. Tang Yushu felt that the other party was unreasonable and did not try to persuade him. There were other people waiting for the family. Tang Chuanxiang owed a lot of gambling debts outside, and the creditors came to visit from time to time. However, Wu Feng was also a difficult person to deal with. Every time she came, Wu Feng would sit on the ground and cry as if she was at a funeral. Even if the creditors said harsh words, it was useless. When Wu Feng thought of the past, she wished that Tang Chuanxiang would die. How could she care about his life? As for the money, she hid it well. No one knew where it was. Tang Chuanxiang often came back to make a scene, but there was nothing she could do. Beating Wu Feng up was not very useful. In Wu Feng's opinion, being beaten up was better than losing the money. Anyway, even if she died, she would not hand over the money. No one could do anything to her if she insisted that the family had no money. In fact, she did not know that these debt collectors were gentle because they had been warned by Tang Yuhui. Tang Yuhui's original words were that it was okay to collect debts, but don't threaten the lives of the family. In addition, he also specifically told them that he did not care what they did to Tang Chuanxiang. Tang Yuhui had no feelings for Tang Chuanxiang, his father. If it were not for Tang Chuanxiang, would his sister have suffered so much? The debt collectors tried to find Tang Gua, but before they could, they were warned by the people of Xianles. Since then, they did not dare to find trouble with Tang Gua. They tested step by step and found that whether it was Tang Gua, Tang Yuhui, or the family, they did not care about Tang Chuanxiang's life. Even if Tang Chuanxiang was beaten half to death, they did not react. The creditors were very angry. They could not get the money, and Tang Chuanxiang was helpless. In the end, they piled all their anger on Tang Chuanxiang. Once again, Tang Gua heard that Tang Chuanxiang's hands were cut off from the wrists. In the end, he was thrown at the door of the family. Blood flowed all over the floor. This was purely because they could not get the money and had no choice but to deal with Tang Chuanxiang. Wu Feng had to do something even if she didn't want to. I like this ending very much. Tang Gua smiled. This was what Tang Chuanxiang deserved. Now that Tang Chuanxiang's hands had been chopped off, it was not like the situation in the plot. At this time, Tang Chuanxiang would only vent all his anger on the family Tang. In his opinion, if Wu Feng, Tang Si, and Tang Si did not dislike Tang Gua, he would not have suffered so much. This was a typical example of someone who couldn't do anything but be a tyrant at home. Wu Feng was not a pushover. She would definitely cause a ruckus with Tang Chuanxiang every day. After living such a peaceful life for so long, it's time for the family to become lively again. System, host, your chess moves are steady, and Big Brother Tang also cooperated well. That brat 111 sent an email saying that he had received an outstanding system reward again. The system was very unhappy. A useless system that didn't know anything and relied on an outstanding host to win. It didn't know shame at all. If he had a serial number and the host was also an employee of the Time Bureau, the outstanding award would definitely not be given to that useless system 111. His follower 222 was not bad. Every year, he would receive the most diligent award. Now, 222 was already recognized by the system as a model worker. He worked diligently and never slacked off. As expected of his favorite follower. Chapter 4011. Unlike that useless system 111, which only knew how to brag and suck up to him, there was not much useful information in its mouth. Did Tang Yuxing sell his paintings? The system came back to its senses and quickly said, no, he didn't. Previously, those who wanted to ask him to paint decorative paintings were rejected by him. He said that those people were insulting art. He wouldn't paint something without a soul. Tang Gua giggled. He's quite arrogant. He must have eaten too much. He doesn't know what it's like to be hungry. The three siblings had long gone astray. Even now, Tang Yushu was still living a good life by writing essays. After a long time, many things would slowly be exposed. Moreover, she wouldn't allow Tang Yuxing to live a good life. He sucked the blood of the original owner and felt that it was natural. How could he live such a good life? It would be best if he lived a miserable life. Only then would she be satisfied. Teacher Qing, what do you think of my painting now? Qing Han was very satisfied to have a student like Tang Gua. When he suddenly heard his student's question, he said proudly, Tang Gua, you are a very talented person. You are improving every time. Your painting is very good. Teacher Qing, what do you think of me finding something to do with painting to train my ability? Qing Han was a little surprised. What do you want to do? Qing Han didn't feel that only paintings that were hung up for appreciation were paintings with soul. He personally felt that as long as one treated each of his work seriously, he would be given the soul of a painter. Can I paint some decorative paintings? I'm still an apprentice and I'm not a famous artist. I don't dare to paint anything to sell. If I'm not famous, even if my painting is good, not many people will like it. Many masters didn't get up step by step. Since it's painting, as long as one can paint, it is an improvement. Qing Han felt that it made sense. Then I'll help you look out. It's easy to find such a job. I heard that some people do need some painters to help decorate their homes. His student was good because her style was unpredictable. That meant that she could master any style. Qing Han felt a sense of achievement and taught all his skills to Tang Gua. He even felt that he might not have anything to teach her in a year. If it weren't for her special situation, he would have suggested that Tang Gua study abroad and get to know better teachers. Within a few days, Qing Han found a few jobs for Tang Gua. When the main family found out that it was the singer from Xian Lisi who had helped them draw the decorations, they felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. If it wasn't for the fact that the person who spoke was Qing Han, they would definitely think that he was a swindler. After Tang Gua displayed her skills, the master of the house clicked his tongue in wonder, and had a new view of this Xian Lisi's signboard. It was no wonder that he was popular and sought after. It turned out that he was a multi-talented person and was even Ching Han's student. Not bad. The finished products of these families were all very good. The main family was very satisfied and gave Tang Guo a lot of remuneration, although this amount of money was nothing to her. With the help of these families, Tang Guo received a lot of private work. They would even ask Tang Guo to help them with their decorations on some big occasions. Many people knew and heard that there was a Miss Tang who painted decorations. She was very amazing and could change the walls of a house into another style. Out of respect for Tang Guo, they didn't say anything about her identity as a singer. As a result, many people didn't know that this Miss Tang was that Miss Tang. When Tang Guo received the invitation from the Zhou family, she was also a little surprised. After asking Ching Han, she found out that the Zhou family invited her to draw some Western European-style paintings mainly for the second young master of the Zhou family. It was said that the second young master of the Zhou family was going to return to China next year, and they had to prepare these in advance. Chapter 40:12. When Tang Guo took on those jobs, she did not just paint. She also helped decorate the rooms and suggested what should be placed in the rooms. To put it bluntly, it had something to do with interior design. It was just that in this day and age, this term was still unfamiliar to most people. When the owners saw that she was doing well, they handed everything over to her. Over time, when she needed to decorate the house, not only did she paint, but also the other decorations were all arranged by Tang Guo. Tang Guo had experienced many different worlds, so of course she had a good sense of aesthetics. She combined the personal preferences of the people in this era and added some things that she thought were good and acceptable to the owners. The finished products were very satisfactory. Tang Guo followed the Zhou family to the Zhou family home. The people who met her were Mrs. Zhou and old Madame Zhou. Mrs. Zhou said, "At first, I heard that the person who could do this was Miss Tang, but I didn't believe it." "I heard that you are Ching Han's student?" Mrs. Zhou asked with a smile. Tang Guo nodded. "Yes. Then I don't have to worry. Ching Han has been abroad for so many years. Since you are his student, my second son will like the room you decorate." After Mrs. Zhou said this, she looked at old Madame Zhou and asked, "Mom, what do you think?" "Do as you see fit. As long as my second son likes it, it's fine." Old Madame Zhou did not speak to Tang Guo. She probably still minded Tang Guo's identity as a singer. If the second son of the Zhou family had not come back, Mrs. Zhou would not have listened to her and asked Tang Guo to help the Zhou family. Tang Guo could feel that old Madame Zhou did not like it, so she did not bother to be polite. There were many people in this world who did not like her and looked down on her identity as a singer. Was she going to point at their noses and argue with them? The Zhou family hired her to do things because she was her employer. She was paid to do things, nothing else. Although it was said that she was decorating the rooms for the Zhou family, it was actually a small courtyard. The Zhou family was so big and the Zhou family was the main family. Of course, they were given a small courtyard. "Miss Tang, I'll leave this small courtyard to you." "Oh right, second brother really likes to take care of some flowers and plants. You young people have similar taste in flowers and plants. I think it'll be easier for second brother to like the decorations. I'll leave these to you. If you need anything, let the housekeeper do it. During this time, the housekeeper will be by your side to help." Mrs. Zhou didn't have any prejudice against Tang Guo. On the contrary, she thought that it was amazing for a singer to become Ching Han's student. If it weren't for her status as Mrs. Zhou, she would have wanted to follow her second son abroad to take a look. Unfortunately, old Madame Zhou probably wouldn't agree. She was the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family, and there were some things that were beyond her control. In addition, she was also worried about her eldest son and youngest daughter. If she didn't stay at home, who would take care of them? Okay, Mrs. Zhou. If you know of any special preferences of second young master, you can send someone to tell me in advance. He will. Second brother left the country a long time ago. It's difficult to communicate with him. I only know what he liked before he left the country. Otherwise, she wouldn't have hired someone to decorate the yard. In the letter, second brother said that he would not go out this time. Of course, she was happy. This yard had to be decorated well. Tang Guo got busy. The Zhou family arranged several assistants for her, so it was more convenient for her to do anything. Recently, she had arranged fewer classes, and the 3 teachers did not have any objections. Chapter 40:13. Tang Guo was too talented. During this time, they could discuss how to teach this talented student. In addition, Tang Guo did not neglect her performance at Xianlisi. In her free time, she collaborated with her music teacher, Yin Yu, to write songs and compose songs for Xianlisi to sing. Because it was her and Yin Yu's original work, Xianlisi bought the songs and valued her even more. As for the rest, as long as she did not delay her performance, Xianlisi did not care what she did. In addition, when they found out that she had unknowingly mixed into the circle of the rich, they would give her more face. Many of Xianlisi's singers relied on men to walk in front of these famous people, but Tang Guo relied on her own ability. Who wouldn't pay attention to her? Talented and capable people were respected wherever they went. The people around her had a subtle change in their impression of her. Tang Guo did not pay attention to this. She was very busy every day. She did not forget to write articles for the newspaper. She seemed to be busier than the big boss. After being busy for half a month, she did not meet Tang Yuhui, who was working for Zhou Ji. They were both working for the Zhou family. They would eventually meet, so she was not in a hurry. About 20 days later, Tang Guo went to work at the Zhou family early in the morning. She happened to run into Tang Yuhui, who came back with Zhou Ji. Tang Yuhui was a little dumbfounded. He forgot that his boss was still beside him. "Sister, why are you here?" Tang Yuhui had worked for Zhou Ji for a long time. He knew that Madame Zhou did not like girls to show their faces in public. She might not like the identity of a singer. Of course, he was curious about Tang Guo's visit, but more than that, he was worried. When Zhou Ji got out of the car, he noticed the woman coming out of the rickshaw. He had seen Tang Guo before. Of course, he knew who she was. He was also curious about why she came to the Zhou family. Tang Guo glanced at Zhou Ji from the corner of her eye. She did not look at him again. She only whispered to Tang Yuhui about her visit to the Zhou family. Tang Yuhui could not help but give her a thumbs up. "Sister, you are amazing." After saying that, he finally remembered his boss and hurriedly introduced him to Tang Guo. Tang Yuhui didn't think too much about it. He just felt that his sister was very powerful and couldn't wait to introduce her to the people he had a good impression of. The system scanned Zhou Ji for a long time. At the same time, it was analyzing whether this guy was the host's cutie. He didn't feel anything unusual about Tang Guo, but he found that Zhou Ji's attention was indeed attracted by Tang Guo. "System, dear host, is that you're the cutie? Why didn't I feel anything unusual? Did your cutie really get lost this time?" He hadn't appeared for so long. By the way, regardless of whether this person is your big cutie or not, he is indeed looking at you. When did you become so cunning? It's not a divination. I'm just a little worried. Speaking of which, an excellent man in a small world wasn't bad either. I was really worried about that guy. If you don't come early, you might be abducted by someone else. If you don't come early, you won't even be able to find a place to cry. Host, don't you think that Zhou Ji is more like the chosen one than Zhou Guan? He's handsome, rich, smart, capable, and has a good status. If it weren't for the fact that he's the chosen one and his luck is slightly better, he would be much better than the male lead. Speaking of which, if that guy really gets lost, you can actually change your taste. I think this guy is good. Chapter 40:14. Tang Gua didn't want to bother with the system's random matchmaking. Zhou Ji looked like a good person and was very open-minded. However, some people just didn't feel anything. Besides, no matter how excellent a person was, not all of them were suitable for her. What she needed was to find someone who made her feel happy and comfortable to get along with. She didn't know who it was, but Zhou Ji definitely wasn't it. The system sensed that Tang Guo wasn't interested, so it didn't say anything more. No matter what, the host was happy. I know some of second brother's hobbies. Zhou Ji took the initiative to speak. Tang Guo didn't refuse. Since the master asked, she just had to work according to the requirements. In the next few days, Zhou Ji would talk to Tang Guo about second young master Zhou's hobbies when he was free, but he didn't say anything else. Zhou Ji was a very boring person. Everything he did was business. He wasn't the kind of person who was happy. Even if he was very happy, he would only smile faintly. In Tang Guo's eyes, he was just a tool to inherit the family business. It wasn't that such a person wasn't good, but she felt that such a person wasn't suitable for her. She sensed that Zhou Ji had other feelings for her, but she didn't want to expose them. In the later performances, Zhou Ji came to watch her for the first time. After the performance, he even talked to her for a while. This was amazing. Many people knew that the young master of the Zhou family looked at Tang Guo in a different light. Their opinion of her was even higher. Old Madame Zhou knew about this, but she didn't care. In old Madame Zhou's eyes, her eldest grandson was going to do big things. It wasn't a big deal for him to go to those kinds of occasions. It wasn't a big deal for him to like women occasionally. As long as this woman was obedient and didn't try to marry into the Zhou family, she could do anything if she wanted to be the eldest young mistress of the Zhou family. However, she still didn't like Tang Guo. Tang Guo couldn't be bothered to argue with her. She didn't care about Zhou Ji's attitude towards her. If she didn't like someone, it would be useless no matter what he did to her. Tang Yuhui was very worried when he found out about this. He even came to see Tang Guo to test her attitude. His boss was a good person, but he didn't think that his sister would have a good ending with him. It wasn't easy to marry into a high family. The Zhou family had too many rules. He was afraid that his sister would suffer. Big brother, you're thinking too much. I don't have any thoughts about the Zhou family, nor do I have any thoughts about your big boss. Tang Yuhui asked with uncertainty. After all, if it were anyone else, they would have been tempted by Zhou Ji's attitude. Although Zhou Ji did not do anything, every time Tang Guo performed, he would come to watch when he was free and buy her some flowers. Anyone with a discerning eye could see why. If it were any other girl, she would have been touched long ago and given her heart to him. Really, don't worry. If I really want to find you a brother-in-law, he'll definitely be obedient and obedient. He'll only listen to me and treat me well. He won't be in a position where he can't control himself. She really did not have any feelings for Zhou Ji. He was very outstanding, but he was not her cup of tea. Tang Yuhui's eyes lit up. That's good. I'm looking for someone who doesn't have any worries and only cares about girls. Big Brother objected to this not because Big Boss was not good. On the contrary, Big Boss was a good person, but the Zhou family was too complicated. Young Master is the heir of the Zhou family. He's destined to consider all aspects. There are some things that he can't control. Even with Young Master's protection, after you enter the Zhou family, you'll be the young madam of the Zhou family. Madam is fine, but the old madam doesn't like her. Who knows what will happen when Young Master isn't around? If she casually accused you of teaching Young Master bad things, I wouldn't know what to do. Now, since you don't like Young Master, I'm relieved. Chapter 40:15. Okay. Big Brother, if you have the chance, tell Young Master everything, Tanguo said. She didn't like this kind of vague feeling. The other party didn't really say anything. She couldn't just go to him and say, "Don't waste your time. I don't like you." Okay. If there's a chance, I'll remind Young Master from time to time. My sister likes someone who's obedient and only treats her well. Status isn't important. In Tang Youhui's opinion, it was best to find a brother-in-law who had a simple family and was easy to get along with. His sister would live a comfortable life if she was in charge. Otherwise, if she married into her husband's family, she wouldn't know whether it was good or bad. His sister couldn't wait to be doted on. Later, Tang Youhui really did find a chance to talk about his sister's views on choosing a husband in front of Zhou Ji. After that day, Zhou Ji was more silent. Although he still came to see Tanguo's performances, he didn't ask anyone to send flowers. No one knew what he was thinking. When Tanguo was at the Zhou family's house, the two of them would greet each other normally when they ran into each other. In 3 months, Tanguo had finished decorating the Zhou family's small courtyard. She even asked someone to take photos for future publicity. Ever since she designed the courtyard for the Zhou family's second young master, Tanguo had become very famous. The outside world didn't know that the designer, Miss Tang, was Miss Tang from Xianlesi. But the people in the upper circle all knew. Other than people like old Madame Zhou who didn't like her background, there were also some open-minded people who admired her talent and would go to her shows from time to time. Next month will be when the merchant ship is in trouble. Tang Guo calculated the time and felt that she should visit Tang Youhui more often and ask about the merchant ship. There were so many important people on board at that time. They were probably having a party. A few days later, before Tang Guo could ask, Tang Youhui took the initiative to tell Tang Guo about it. He also gave Tang Guo a ship ticket. This was a pleasant surprise. Young Master gave it to me. Tang Youhui scratched his head. I wanted to refuse, but there aren't many occasions like this. I'll do more things for Young Master in the future to make it up to you. This time, sister can go and see the world more. Tang Guo was happy to accept it. This ticket was Zhou Ji's life-saving ticket. It was given at the right time. A month later, Tang Guo boarded the merchant ship with her ticket. Sure enough, this was a very grand gathering. It should be said that it was a business meeting. Many influential people had come. Thinking back to the plot, not a single person on the ship survived. He wondered who was behind this plot. Miss Tang is here too. The person who greeted Tang Guo was none other than the boss of Xianles, Qin Jingyuan. Xianlesi was only a small part of the Qin clan's business, so it wasn't considered a big business. Of course, Qin Jingyuan was very familiar with Tang Guo. He was the one who signed Tang Guo when she was 15 years old. He even signed her for 10 years. Boss. Tang Guo nodded at Qin Jingyuan. Qin Jingyuan had a smile on his face, and there was some appreciation in his expression. He didn't ask how Tang Guo got the ticket. If Tang Guo really wanted to come, there was definitely a way to get a ticket. She was no longer a simple singer in Xianless. Thinking about how he had only signed her for 10 years, Qin Jingyuan suddenly felt that he had suffered a loss. He felt that signing her for 20 years was actually better. But now, he could only think about it. Tang Guo thought that the boss was really lucky to have met her. Otherwise, he would have lost his life here. Yes, this incident caused the entire power of Sea City to be cleaned up. Chapter 40:16. After Qin Jingyuan died, his younger brother Qin Jingran took over Xianlisi. It was worth mentioning that Qin Jingran fell in love with Tang Si later on. Many times when Tang Si caused trouble, Qin Jingran helped to deal with it. It was because of Tang Si that the Qin family was hated by others and gradually declined. Of course, this was after the original owner left Xianlisi. Tang Guo's ticket was a VIP ticket and she was given a very good room on the ship. She used the excuse that she was not feeling well and said goodbye to Tang Yuhui before returning to her room to rest. In fact, after returning to her room, she took out the paper puppet and dripped a drop of blood on it. The paper puppet turned into her appearance. Then, she stuck an invisibility talisman on herself. Under special circumstances, she could only use this method to find the cause of the ship's explosion. She guessed that dangerous things must have been buried on the ship and they would be ignited at night. At that time, the ship would be far away from the coast and there would be no chance to escape if an accident happened. This world was really chaotic. No matter how rich or how high one's status was, one would still die an unnatural death for various reasons. Using the invisibility talisman, Tang Guo shuttled to every corner of the ship. The system helped to scan for dangerous items on the ship. After a while, it found that many dangerous items were placed in many places. As long as one of them was ignited, the entire ship would fall into disaster. Tang Guo did not directly take these things away. Instead, she emptied them and stuffed a large amount of sand inside. Even if she ignited them, it would be useless. During this time, she let the paper puppet replace her to entertain the guests. She stuck the invisibility talisman on herself and hid in a corner to check for suspicious people. The sky was dark and the ship was very far from the coast. The ship was brightly lit and there were all kinds of beautiful music. Tang Guo looked at her paper puppet that was playing the piano. She did not look at it anymore because she had already found some suspicious people. There were a total of 3 people. They were all waiters on the ship. Tang Guo followed them and saw with her own eyes that they ran to a corner and found those dangerous things. They pulled out a long line and prepared to ignite it. Tang Guo knocked them out with a hand chop and tied them up with a rope, making them stay in their original position. The 3 people were not spared. They were all hit. After that, Tang Guo went to the outside of the ship and saw a small boat below. After settling the matter, Tang Guo didn't relax. Who knew what would happen later? After partying for half the night, most of the things that needed to be discussed were discussed. Everyone returned to their rooms. The ship did not catch fire, explode, and sink like in the plot. It was not until dawn that Tang Guo saw the people on the ship discover the 3 people and find countless dangerous things stuffed with sand. Only then did she return to her room and put away the paper puppet. Just as he lay down, someone knocked on the door. She walked over to open the door. There were 3 people at the door. Tang Yuhui, Zhou Ji, and her boss, Qin Jingyuan. Big sister, it's good that you're all right. Tang Yuhui wiped off his cold sweat. God knew how panicked he was when he saw those things. They didn't know who had saved them, but if no one had helped them, they would have died here. Tang Yuhui felt a little regretful. He had almost harmed his eldest sister. Tang Yuhui didn't say much. Instead, he asked Tangua to follow them. Tangua did as she was told. There was no danger now. However, the discovery of those things did indeed make the people on the ship restless. Last night, they had almost gone to see their ancestors. The terrifying feeling of surviving a disaster made everyone on the ship feel depressed. This incident was a wake-up call for them. They didn't take good care of their safety. As for catching the mastermind, they weren't worried at all. Weren't those 3 people here? They had plenty of ways to make the 3 of them talk. However, this incident had left them with a serious psychological trauma. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.